Here's Johnny.
All right. Do we have any preliminary matters before the jury?
Circuit Court of Fairfax County is now in session. Young J.S. Roy presiding. Please be seated.
All right. Good morning. All right. Do we have any preliminary matters before the jury comes out? Sure.
Let's go. Let's go. Amber Turd. Amber Turd. 와, 요 HD요. My God.
Okay, are we ready for the jury then?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Let's go. And her.
Thank you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for being so punctual this morning. I appreciate it for the early start. All right. Just a reminder, Ms. Hurt, you're still under oath, okay? All right. Next question.
Thank you, Your Honor. Amber, when did the first act of physical violence by Mr. Depp occur?
Objection asked and answered.
No, overruled. Go ahead.
It would have been early 2012.
And how did you determine this?
I reviewed my therapist's Objection, notes. hearsay.
Let's go. Come
She
on.
hasn't even answered it, Your
All
Honor.
right, I'll allow the answer.
By reviewing my therapist's notes. Objection,
All right,
hearsay.
I'll sustain the objection.
Your Honor, but it's not offered to prove the truth of the matter asserted. It's explaining what she looked at.
I'll sustain the objection.
Okay. When did you earlier believe the first act of physical violence occurred?
Them like,
Well, I had always believed, up until recently, that it had started later, that the violence started around early 2013, not early 2012.
Now, you testified earlier that the first act of physical violence by Mr. Depp related to the Winona Wino tattoo. Do you recall that testimony?
why no?
I do.
Okay. Does that change your testimony, realizing that this is earlier? Was this, in fact, still the first act?
Objection, leading.
Sustained.
What was the first act?
Objection asked and answered.
Sustained.
How do you remember the first act of violence?
Well, you never forget it. That's how I remember it. It changes your life forever. You never forget the first time someone hits you like that. I just had the date wrong.
And how is it that you think you got the date wrong?
Objection calls for speculation.
Overruled.
I'm embarrassed to say I think I would have liked to have believed that the period of time in which I had to fall in love with Johnny, in which we fell in love and he was sober and he wasn't violent to me, lasted for a lot longer than it did. I think I would have liked to have believed that I wasn't hit so early in the relationship and still stayed. He was also sober for a period in 2012, which was a peaceful time for us, in which we fell in love. So I had kind of allowed myself, I guess, to forget that the beginning of that period, 2012, before he got sober, was really violent and chaotic as well. I'm embarrassed to say that.
Now, you testified that the police were called multiple times. Other than the May 21, 2016, what other occasions were there where the police were called?
They were called in December of 2011. They were called in 2012. They were called in 2013 in March by the landlord. They I had sought advice from Laurel Anderson as to whether I should call the police following
Objection,
the December-
hearsay.
Sustain.
Okay. When you filed the domestic violence
fight,
temporary
so-
restraining order, how many acts of abuse did you allege at that time?
Say,
I gave the last couple, I believe, last two incidents, maybe three.
And why didn't you tell of all the acts of abuse at that time?
I was following advice from my counsel.
Okay. How many instances of abuse were included in the UK trial?
There were 14 acts of physical abuse and violence and 3 acts of sexual abuse. Violence.
And why were those 17 included in the UK trial?
objection, heard say.
Well, I was not a party, a direct party. I was a witness, so it was whatever their counsel, the Sun Council, chose.
Okay. When is the first time you were called upon to provide a detailed accounting of as many times as you could recall of physical and sexual abuse by Mr. Depp?
Objection, hearsay.
That's not hearsay, Your Honor. I'm asking her when she was called upon to do so.
Well, the objection is hearsay.
Right, but it's not offered to prove the truth of the matter asserted, and it's just asking for date.
All right,
You don't
overruled.
fight with
Thank
judge.
you.
A few months ago, February in 2022, this year, was the first time I was asked to do so, other than cold in a deposition.
Okay. And when you were asked to provide those, what did you do to be able to prepare that accounting, that full accounting?
Well, I had the benefit of my therapist. note.
Objection, hearsay.
So, Your Honor, she's not saying what the therapist said. I'm just asking.
I'll overrule the objection.
Thank you. Go ahead.
I looked at my therapist notes. I had the benefit of those notes, which we had received in February, as well as I reviewed calendars, photos, text messages, my journals, my diaries, of which there were many. I put all of those together. It took a lot of time to be able to, adequately refresh my recollection and fill in the details over the course of the 5 years we were together.
And what did you do when you put that all together?
I kind of filled in and collected all of these various pieces of information and gave a fuller account as best I could for each incidence of violence that I had record of. I think it was called an interrogatory.
In this case?
In this case,
All right.
excuse
Did
me,
you sign that under oath?
I did.
Okay. And it was provided to counsel for Mr. Depp?
It was.
Okay. And was it a pretty lengthy document?
It was far too long.
And how is it that you didn't just remember all of those events like this?
That's not how your memory or my memory works. We were together for 5 years, almost 4.5, and it was a very violent, chaotic, at times very loving, emotional relationship. So as anyone can imagine, there was a lot going on, and unfortunately the violence became almost normal, especially towards the end. It was just, it's hard to say that now, but the violence was almost normal. And, your brain does with trauma what it does, puts it away best you can. So I was frankly, I was shocked to see a lot of the information presented to me through my therapist's notes, because she was taking them in real
Objection,
time.
Your Honor, hearsay.
All right, I'll sustain that objection.
Okay, we'll move past what the therapist said in her notes. Okay. Now, there's one more. You also provided a declaration in this case early on. Do you recall that, trying to move the case to California?
Yes, there was a declaration in 2019.
All right. And did you describe some of the events of violence in that declaration?
Objection, leading.
What, if anything, was said about violent acts in that declaration?
I was taking the advice of my counsel. We had it was to get it moved, I believe.
Okay. And And was there, did you include all of them?
No.
Objection leading.
Overruled.
Thank you.
No, I did not include all of the incidents of violence. That was not the point of making this declaration. We were making this declaration in an effort to move it to California because as hard as it is to go through this sort of trial as it is, it's even harder to do so in a place that neither Johnny nor I are connected to.
Okay. Now, you testified earlier about guitars, and you said you've never played a guitar. Have you ever played a guitar player in a movie?
You could say I posed with a guitar. It turns out I am an unteachable.
Okay. I'm going to take you to the tape recordings. Why did you and Mr. Depp start taping each other?
Well, at first it was it was meant to be a way to get to the heart of some of our communication issues in order to discover in a therapeutic fashion
Look at the check.
kind of what was some of our issues in our communication.
Okay. Now, we heard an audio tape earlier during this trial in which you said the word couch repeatedly. Can you please explain to the jury
Couch.
what that meant?
Yes. Couch was a word that we had been given, that we decided upon, rather.
Objection hearsay.
Just tell us what Mr. Depp said about this.
That it was a safe word. It was meant to be a safe word, like a word, like truce, where you put down the proverbial guns and you say, truce, we're not fighting anymore. Couch was supposed to be a word that you used, or that we used as a truce. I don't want to fight anymore. You win. Let's stop this. That was the mention of couch, which you heard earlier in a recording.
Now, what, if any, discussions did you have with Mr. Depp about threatening to divorce each other or threatening to leave?
Objection calls for hearsay to
I'm
the extent
asking
it
for-
calls for misheard statements.
I'm asking for discussions with Mr. Depp.
It's still her.
Just tell us what Mr. Depp said, don't tell us what you said.
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah. Yes. What did Mr. Depp say in your discussions about the use of the term threatening to divorce or threatening to leave each other?
Objection leading.
Overruled.
Well, Johnny
go.
really say the only way out of this was death. But in fights, in particularly heated ones, we had found, we were using divorce in the fight, in some of our heated fights. We tried not to, but that kind of deteriorated after the December incident that I got beat up pretty badly, and after that point, it was used a lot more often.
Okay. Now, March 26, 2015, this is after the first Australia trip and after the staircase incident. I'm going to ask, Michelle, can you bring up Depp Exhibit 371A? This is a tape recording, and it's going to be at 1 minute, 1:01 to 2:29.
Could you say that times again? I'm sorry.
Yes, it's 1:01 to 2:29. And if we could, I don't know whether you had turned up that volume. I know it's hard to hear these.
Is this in evidence already?
I'm moving it into evidence, Your Honor, but these are the tape recordings between the two, which I think we had
Hi,
agreed.
Johnny.
Is there any objection to 371A?
Your Honor, if you just give me a moment to confirm there's no other voices.
Plaintiffs. Yes, that's right. Based on evidence, I'm sorry.
It's not in evidence, Your Honor, so could you please confirm that there are no other voices?
I will confirm that.
Okay, all right.
And it's Depp's exhibit.
Right.
It's Mr. Depp's exhibit.
Plaintiffs 371A then, any objection?
No objection.
Okay, 371A in evidence. Thank you.
And we may need to, Sammy, if you listen, and we may need to turn that volume up. Sometimes your control is a little bit better than what we have, Max.
I see somebody who's changing always.
I recognize for a brief moment, and then he slips away, and he disappears. And then I get a different version of him. I get the insecure, scared version of him that lashes out in a different medium every time. So if it's Adderall junkie Johnny, then he's abusive, and he's a bully, and he's a tyrant, and he's mean, he's reactionary, and he's incendiary, and anything I do and say is cause for violence or anger. If I speak to him honestly, bluntly from the heart, I'm yelling at him. If I argue back with him, then I'm abusive. If I don't say anything, then I am dismissive or absent or it's wrong or someone else. If I engage with him, I'm part of the problem, I'm yelling, I'm mean. If I don't engage with him, then I'm part of the problem. No matter what I do, I'm fucked. Because if I look at him the wrong way, he's a problem.
Crying
If I
again.
say the wrong thing, God knows what it is. I'm the problem. I'm the problem. That's the guy who's on a bunch of fucking speed.
Nothing I did changed his rage at me. Nothing I did changed the violence towards me. Nothing I did calmed him down. And I was constantly doing a juggling act of what kind of version of Johnny I was dealing with. There were different versions of him, and they were drastically different from one another, and even more so than them being different from one another, they didn't even sometimes remember what the other version did or said. They acted almost like independent versions of this person, depending on what combination of drugs and alcohol he was on. That's what I was trying to express to him. It's just the futility of me responding and successfully, and the futility of trying to constantly negotiate with him and the substances he was on at the time.
I'm going to take you to April 15, 2015, the premiere of When I Live My Life Over Again. What, if anything, did you do for that premiere?
I believe that premiere was in New York City. It was a small independent film I shot. I went back to New York to attend the premiere.
Michelle, can you bring up Defendant's Exhibit 421, please? Does this accurately depict the scene portrayed in this picture?
Yes.
Your Honor, I'm going to move the admission of Defendant's Exhibit 421.
Any objection?
No objection.
All right, 421 in evidence.
May we publish to the
Publish to
jury?
jury.
Thank you. Amber, could you please describe for the jury what this picture is?
That is a picture of me a few months, I believe this is April of 2015, so it's a few months after the March incident that happened in Australia, early March, in which Johnny held me down on the countertops and my arms were cut on the glass
And
in that attack.
And if we could draw attention to your arm there, are those scars? What are those? Please describe for the jury
What are
those are.
those?
Those are scars that I obtained while Johnny was strangling me and assaulting me on the countertop in Australia.
Michelle, can you bring up Defendant's Exhibit 423, please? And does this accurately portray the scene shown?
Yes, that's
Hold on a second. I'm going
Yes.
to move the admission of Defendant's 423, please.
No objection.
423 in evidence.
Thank you.
Publish.
May we publish? All right, and please describe to the jury what this shows.
it is a picture of me on a red carpet. You can see my scars. Even though I have makeup on them, they're a bit harder to cover because they're rather fresh.
Okay. Now, after this, in April of 2015, you returned to Australia with Mr. Depp, did you not?
Objection leading.
Overruled, I'll allow it.
Thank you.
Yes, we did.
Okay, and tell the jury about that trip.
Well, after Johnny was able to get clean off of the coke and the other drugs enough to get the hand surgery he needed, there commenced a period of time of sobriety for Johnny. His doctor had fired him and then came on when Johnny agreed to get clean.
Objection, hearsay, non-responsive.
Don't say what, I mean, we've already had the testimony from Dr. Kipper, but don't say what Dr. Kipper did. Just tell the other part. Just don't say what somebody else said. Okay?
So there was this period of sobriety after that, and Johnny was very committed to being clean and sober, and I thought we had finally done it. We finally did it. We were through it, and we were never going back, meaning he was going to be clean and sober for good this time, and we had a wonderful period of, we fell back in love, or deeper in love than we were before. It seemed things were so good. We were talking about a future again. We were talking about having kids. I mean, when Johnny wasn't using it, was so peaceful. We had a good time together. We went back to Australia like that, in that state, and had a few months. We even had my parents come and visit us in Australia, and we were talking about babies and about buying a farm and, looking for homes in California. And we were in a really beautiful, peaceful period. It was wonderful. It was wonderful.
Now, did you stay at the same place that you did the earlier time in Australia?
We went back to a very remodeled version of that home. I mean, remodeled, very cleaned up version of that home. Same walls, same structure, but looked a bit different, as you can imagine.
How did you feel going back to that home, given what had happened in March, early March?
The home isn't the problem. If you're living in domestic violence, you don't just not go home. You don't just not go into the kitchen just because you were slapped in that kitchen. People living in domestic violence live in their homes. That's almost, the home isn't the problem. That's the normal part of your home. And for me, Johnny was my home. Where we were a couple was my home. And that home was often really violent. But it wasn't the structure itself. It was Johnny. And when we went back to Australia, that home, Johnny, was in a completely different, he had done a complete 180. Clean, sober, present, calm. We were peaceful. I mean, any of the gripes and the problems that he seemed to have about me went away when he was sober. And so we managed to go back to that same house, but in a very different way. It felt very different.
June 16, 2015, the Magic Mike Tour. Where did you go for that tour?
While I was in Australia, I got the call for that press tour and went to Europe for the press tour for that movie. And, I was nervous because problems arise when I'm having to work, when I leave.
Objection, non-responsive.
That was still responsive.
Well, sustain the objection. Next question.
Michelle, can you please bring up Defendant's Exhibit 447? I'm going to ask you first, does this accurately portray the scene depicted?
Yes.
Your Honor, remove the admission of Defendant's Exhibit 447.
No objection.
447 in evidence. You can publish.
Thank you. And Michelle, if you could zoom in just a little bit closer. Amber, could you tell the jury about this picture?
Yes, that's me on the red carpet promoting the Magic Mike movie I was in. You can see the scars on my body, on my arms.
Okay.
You can't see everything, of course, but...
Okay. And Michelle, can you bring up Defendant's Exhibit 449? And Amber, does this accurately depict the scene portrayed?
Yes, it does.
Your Honor, remove the admission of Defendant's 449.
No objection.
449 in evidence.
Okay.
Publish.
And Amber, could you please describe to the jury what this portrays?
This is, you can see the scars on my arm from that attack. Also around this time, Johnny was calling me on the phone before and after, while I was doing these press events, and sometimes I would be on the phone with him, kind of managing accusations about why I didn't pick up sooner, didn't text back sooner, and sometimes I actually on this tour many times had to delay getting out of the car or...
Objection, non-responsive.
I'll ask that. How did Mr. Depp react to your going on this press tour?
He was very upset with me. I just remember crying on the phone with him a lot and having to hang up to go do press events.
All right, thank you. Now, I'm going to take you to the Southeast Asia train trip. That was your honeymoon trip, correct?
Yes, it was.
Okay, and that was July 25,
Malaysia. Oh my God.
2015?
Yes,
Yeah.
it was.
Okay. Michelle, I'm going to ask you to bring up Plaintiff's Exhibit 162. It's already into evidence. Now, Mr. McGivern testified that he took this picture in July of 2013. Would you agree?
Objection, misstates prior testimony.
That's exactly what he testified to.
It was
It
Malcolm.
wasn't.
I have the transcript.
I don't know. Go ahead and ask your
It's
question.
Mr. McConnelly.
Is that correct?
I believe Malcolm Conley took this on the Orient Express.
Malcolm Connolly, not Travis McGivern?
I believe it was Malcolm on that trip with us, yes.
Okay, and was it in 2013 or was it 2015?
It was in 2015,
Okay.
July.
And please describe, if you can, what transpired during this trip.
Well, the train trip itself was peaceful up until Johnny wanted to start drinking brown alcohol. He had already started drinking champagne when I returned from the press tour. That's what he was drinking, wine and champagne. When he rapped on Pirates 5, the plan was for us to do this honeymoon. I was walking a bit on eggshells because I know a pattern, but I was not wanting to accept that we had gone back to a pattern at all. And so we were on this train,
Yeah, she's a captain.
and on the last night we were on the train, after this was taken, this photo, Johnny and I got in an argument about him wanting to be allowed, meaning him wanting me to agree to him drinking liquor and being okay with it. And an argument followed that in our sleeping car. Johnny slapped me across the face and held me up by got a hold of my neck and pushed me up against the wall of the cart. It was a small, narrow sleeper cart, and there were two beds, one on each side. He had me up against the wall while he was standing on the floor in between the beds, and I was on the bed, kind of half kneeling, half standing, trying to get his arms off my neck, and he was squeezing my neck against the railway car for what felt like a very long time. And every time he kind of would pull me away from the side of the car, he'd slam me up against the wall. And I remember looking down at him and trying to get his arms off of my neck. And I remember thinking that he could not even mean to kill me. I remember being scared that he wouldn't even mean to do it. And kind of looking down at him because I was slightly above him as he was standing on the ground, and kind of clawing at him, trying to get him to, his arms away from my neck. I remember I had at one point he ripped the top of my shirt. I don't really remember what it was, but I remember I had a breast exposed. At some point, I pull at his lapel of his shirt, and he rips the shirt off of him and wraps it around my neck. And that's how I woke up. The next morning, actually, I woke up with it still around my neck and with a giant knot in the back of my head.
Did you keep a diary at that time?
Yes, I did.
Michelle, can you bring up Defendant's Exhibit 461?
Objection, hearsay.
Out of nowhere.
It is a diary, Your Honor, and I will just ask her some questions about it rather than trying to admit it into evidence at this point.
All right. I'll wait for the question. Go ahead.
What, if anything, do you recall about recording what transpired on that train?
Objection, hearsay.
I'm just asking her whether she did. I'm not asking what she recorded.
All right, I'll allow it. Go ahead. Overruled.
I wrote about what happened that night the next morning.
Thank you. Now, did Mr. Depp suffer any injuries on that trip?
Not that I saw. I have a lot of pictures from that trip, and he's uninjured.
Okay, thank you. You can take that down, Michelle. Thank you. Now, I'm going to keep you in July of 2015, and Michelle, I'm going to ask you to bring up Depp Exhibit 390A. It's a recording, and I'm going to be asking about from 3:30 to 4:12. I'm going to move the admission, Your Honor. It's another recording between Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard. There's nobody else in
It's
there.
plaintiffs, what number was it?
It's plaintiffs, it's 390A.
Okay. Any objection to 390A?
I'm sorry, Your Honor.
Okay.
May we approach?
Okay. Right. Any objection then?
No objection.
All right, 390A in evidence.
I saw you doing it
Oh, so
earlier,
beautiful.
whatever. It's fine. It's secretive. It's deceitful. You already you had trouble with me before when you said to me that you didn't feel like you were told when I was recording you. So please stop.
You didn't.
Please stop.
You did not.
Please stop.
Fucking acknowledge what I'm saying before you keep making demands. You are not a school
Okay.
teacher. Shut
Okay.
the fuck up.
No,
Listen
shut
to
up.
me, and then you can fucking respond. Understand? You ain't nobody's fucking mom. You ain't no school teacher. Don't fucking pretend to be authoritative with me.
Okay, fine.
You don't exist.
Leave it on.
What were you discussing in that call?
We were discussing whether or not it was all right to record each other without the other's permission. And Johnny said it didn't matter anymore, the requirement of that permission from me. I was trying to say, hey, we agreed.
Okay. Let's go to August 2015. Please describe your relationship with Mr. Depp in that time frame.
You said August?
August 2015.
August 2015 was a very difficult time. Following the brief honeymoon we had, Johnny's use continued, well, started again is a better way to describe it. And lo and behold, so did our disagreements, coincidentally, not coincidentally. I got an offer to do a job, which was already a problem, or problematic. I was considering working on a TV series that had James Franco in it. I was asked if I would meet with the people who are making the show.
Objection, hearsay.
It's not offered to prove the truth of the matter, sir.
Overruled.
Thank you.
And so I was considering taking that job. And there was a possibility it would require brief nudity, which I knew I would have to negotiate down. But obviously that was a problem for Johnny. Didn't want me to do that. Didn't want me to work. And frankly, I needed to. And there was another film I had coming out that I had previously shot. It's called London Fields. It was a source of a lot of fighting between us because of the sexuality in the role. It was a constant negotiation between myself and the filmmakers. They made a film, and Johnny told me that he had heard about it, was unhappy with some of what he had heard. He was unhappy with me having done a sex scene in it that he claimed I didn't tell him about. I did not actually film the scene he was speaking of. He demanded that we watch a screener of it, which is like a version of the film before it's released. We got one sent to where we were at the time, Johnny's Chateau in France. It's in a remote part of France. And once again, we're in this remote place and we're screening this film that I appeared in, and there was a scene, a sex scene in that movie that started before Johnny freaked out because it looked like me. They had used a body double. Unbeknownst to me, without my permission, they used a body double to do a sex scene. So I have an incredibly jealous man who already is upset with me for breaking the rule that I had a sex scene. On top of that, I'm telling him it wasn't me. I didn't shoot that scene. And you can imagine how upset he was. He was irate and was calling me a liar, a whore, among other things. And we had this, that combined with the fact that I had even entertained doing this job that involved James Franco, was a pressure cooker. I called it a week of hell later.
Objection, hearsay.
Overruled. That's right.
Johnny at one point slapped me in the face in our bedroom in the chateau that we were staying in. At another moment, he punched me across the jaw. At one point, he kind of either pushed or threw. It's hard to describe to you which of those two it is, because I can't tell you. I just know I went flying into this old church furniture. I later thought I had a concussion. It was the first time I thought I had sustained a concussion. And that's, I wrote about it later.
Now, did there come a time in this time frame that you found a folder on Mr. Depp's computer?
Yes.
What was it labeled?
It was on Johnny's opening page, his desktop. It said, "No fun for JD," in all caps.
And what was in that folder?
It was a collection of pictures of me from various red carpets, starting on the press tours that I had been on, where it zoomed in pictures of what he thought was, like inappropriate clothing, side boob, cleavage, anytime I moved.
Objection calls for speculation.
All right, I'll sustain as to what she believes it was.
Okay. What pictures were in that folder that we have seen today?
The ones I saw of the kind of rose gold dress and the red dress were both in that file.
Now, what, if anything, did Mr. Depp say to you or ask you about how you got those cuts on your arms?
Nothing.
What, if anything, has Mr. Depp ever said to you or asked you about any injuries that you've sustained over those years?
Johnny's obviously never asked me how I got any of those scars.
Did you ever witness Mr. Depp self-injuring himself?
Often. He did that often.
Please tell the jury about that. What did he do?
I first started, I can't tell you what I told my therapist, but I almost called 911 in New York in 2014, August of 2014, I believe. because I thought he had done himself an injury. He often, in fights, would cut his arms or hold a knife to his chest or draw blood superficially at first, but later, like in 2016, especially as our relationship was ending. He also put cigarettes out on himself. He'd flick them at me, and once or twice tried to put one out on me, but mostly he would do it while screaming at me. He once did it right in front of me, screaming at my face as he put the cigarette out on his cheek.
Now, I'm going to take you to September 15, 2015, and Michelle, if we can bring up Depp exhibit, that's plaintiff's exhibit 345A. This is another audio recording, and it's 5:54 to 7:55. I'd like to move the admission, Your Honor.
Any objection?
No objection.
All right, 345A in evidence. Thank you.
If you can play, Michelle, please.
I was gonna pour you one.
I'm an alcoholic. You should.
I don't have any control over how much you drink. But you don't have any control over whether I tell you the truth or not. Have you changed lately? Yeah, you've changed.
Well, your truth is really interesting too.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I'm the first person that's noticed.
Please, so I can go downstairs.
Okay. Yes. Your escape route. I see.
Not escaping. What you got?
Oh, of course. 15 minutes, just like last time.
15.
Just like last time. When I had to pull you out of the bathroom. Well, when you passed out naked in the bathroom in there.
Did you pull me out?
Tried to.
Really?
Yeah.
Did you get inside?
It didn't get inside.
Well, how did you try to pull me
By
out?
pounding on the door, waking you up every 15 minutes, and then falling asleep next to the door so I could hear you snore. In case if you vomited, I could call EMS if you ever stopped snoring.
Because you were
Because if
afraid I was going to die.
I thought you would choke on your own vomit, which is very likely with you.
Really?
Yes, very
But I
likely.
vomit a lot.
Yes.
What?
Yes, you do vomit a lot in your sleep. Even
Really?
oh, it's news to you? Then this is affecting you a lot more than I thought it was.
I'll be so good. I hope so.
What? You don't vomit a lot? Or you tell me? What do you mean you tell me you don't vomit a lot? You don't vomit a lot? You're always with me. I just want to know you try.
Please explain to the jury what the issue was in this particular tape recording.
Well, Johnny at the time was wanting to go and drink downstairs at a bar, and we were talking about 15 minutes because the last several times he had done that, it had been days. He'd disappear on a bender, get really sick, and you know the drill by now, having heard enough from me. So another issue that we were having at the time, or that he was having at the time, that affected me is that he would pass out and vomit, and vomited very, very regularly at this stage. He was obviously drinking again. I'd given up fighting with him on that at that stage. And what I had a habit of doing is turning him over onto his side so he doesn't choke on his own vomit. It's very common for people who do that to asphyxiate. At least that's what I understood. So the advice I got was to turn him to his side, put a pillow underneath his back, and turn his head so that he didn't asphyxiate. And one time I was doing that, and he swung at me, and I told medical. And the advice, after I got their advice, I realized I can't say what the advice was, but after I got that advice, I stopped doing that. I tried to, as much as I could, leave him and just be ready to call 911 or help if I heard him choking. And sometimes that happened behind bathroom doors.
Well, and that's going to take me to September 27, 2015. Again, Depp, that's Plaintiff's Exhibit 356A, and the recording is 3107 to 3230. I'm going to move the admission, Your Honor.
Any objection to that?
No objection.
All right, 356A in evidence.
Thank you, Your Honor. Michelle, thank you.
Why?
And that you punched me in the
You're right.
fucking thing, and you
figured
in the
it
face,
out.
and you said, "No, fuck it, no, I didn't. What the fuck are you talking about?" And I watched
punch
you
you.
lie, and then
I
I
didn't punch you,
and
by
then
the
I-
way. I'm sorry that I didn't hit
punched
you
me.
across the face in a proper slap, but I was hitting you. It was not punching you. Babe, you're not punched.
Don't tell me what it feels like to be punched.
You know, even a lot of fights have been around a long time. No. Yeah.
No, when you fucking have a closed
You
fist.
get punched. You got hit. I'm sorry I hit you like this, but I did not punch you. I did not fucking deck you. I fucking was hitting you.
You can't
I don't know
deck
what the motion of my actual hand was, but you're fine. I did not hurt you. I did not punch you. I was hitting you.
How are your toes?
What am I supposed to do? Do this?
How are your
I'm not
toes?
sitting here bitching about it, am I? You are.
Oh,
That's the difference
my
between
poor
me and
toes.
you. You're a fucking baby.
Because you start
You
physical
are
fights?
such a baby.
Because
Grow
you-
the fuck up.
Because you start
Johnny.
physical fights?
I did start a
Johnny,
physical
Yeah,
baby.
you did, so I had to get the
Because-
fuck out of there.
Yes, you did. So you did the right thing, the big thing. You know what? You are admirable. Every single time. What's your excuse when there's not a physical fight? Then what's the excuse there? You're still being admirable, right? Just by running away.
Amber, please explain to the jury what's transpiring in that audio recording, what that's about.
Well, there's two different situations that we're referencing in this fight. Two different altercations between Johnny and I involving the door. The first of which we first start talking about, where I'm talking about hitting him. I am talking about what that conversation is about the disparity. The disparity between Johnny and I in our physical fights, the disparity of how he would proactively punch me and I would have to resort to reactively hitting him. I am talking about the difference between a punch, which Johnny did often, and me having to hit him in my defense. I know the difference between those two, and I'm highlighting the difference between those two, even if he wasn't twice my size. They're very different, and that's what I'm pointing out to him. The situation that involved, the context of that is, it happened in our bedroom up in Penthouse 3. You've heard us talk about that place. And I was trying to shut a door, our bedroom door actually. I was trying to barricade myself behind this door, and Johnny was trying to get through the door. He was using his body and his limbs to try to bust through the door as I was trying to keep it closed because I knew what he would do to me when he got to me on the other side. And I was hitting his arms, his body, as he was trying to prevent me from closing the door. And that is a separate incident that we later talk about in the second half of that recording, where we're talking about my toes. That involved a different incident, which was a bathroom door, and it was one of those ones that he was passing out in, and I could hear him passing out, or what it sounded like to me behind a closed door is passing out. I heard a thud, I heard a lot of commotion, I heard a glass break, and I hear what sounds like his body falling against the bathroom door. I open it to check on him, as I was accustomed to doing at that time. Johnny violently reacted to me opening the door, pushed it against me. It ran up over my toes, and he angrily came around the side of the door, swinging at me. I naturally pushed the door off of my feet, responding to the pain and also to the awareness, the knowledge that he was coming for me. Johnny later later he blamed me in his inability to understand what happened, in that he was not in his right mind, and he misunderstood that interaction and tried to blame me for starting a physical fight between us. And he even later went so far as to say, I wasn't even going to hit you. And that was the second door. I only could respond by trying to take accountability for my actions in it, what he understood my actions were, and my interpretation. And what I'm trying to say to him is, look, I can only do my best to respond. I was in pain, I was scared, and I can't promise you that when I'm scared and in pain, I won't react, thinking I know very well what our situation is and what's going to happen to me should I not react.
Thank you. So I'm going to play another clip from that same discussion, and Your Honor, it would be Plaintiff's Exhibit Depp's 356B, we'll call that, and it would be from 1:29:27 to 1:30:07, and I'd like to move the admission.
All right, any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
All right, 356B in evidence.
Thank you, Your Honor. Michelle.
I can't promise you that I'll be perfect. I can't promise you I won't get physical again. God, I fucking sometimes get so mad I lose it. I can fucking promise you I'm gonna do everything to change. Promise you, I'm not gonna throw around divorce. I will not say divorce unless I really mean it. Unless it's it. And then I hope you leave me. I'm not going to. And me too. I will leave you. It's fair. I can't do it, you know? And I think, honestly, if we hold each other accountable to that, it's fair.
Please explain to the jury what was going on in that part of the discussion.
That's the same conversation where I am, as I was accustomed to doing, I'm taking as much responsibility as I had to in those interactions. I have to, you know, in my relationship with Johnny, and as you have to, and somebody will not and cannot take any accountability for anything they do in a fight, as Johnny couldn't and wouldn't. I took on as much as I could for myself. You know, I had the whole relationship been blamed for everything, for his drinking, for him hitting me, for everything in between, blamed for walking away, blamed for staying. I blame myself as well. Blame myself for my part in it, blame myself for staying, blame myself for putting up with it. And frankly, at a certain point, it's easier to take the blame, feels easier. It almost feels better to take the blame for something than to accept the senseless nature of the violence you can't change. You know, it's almost more reassuring to take accountability for it than to accept the senseless nature of the violence that you can't change no matter what you do, no matter what I did. No matter what I did, still hit me.
I'm now going to take you to October 5, 2015, and Your Honor, Plaintiff's Exhibit, Depp's Exhibit 393A. It's another recording, 2:40 to 3:43. Move the admission.
No objection.
All right, 393A, plaintiffs in evidence.
Fact of the matter is, Johnny, they don't know. None of your friends, whether they saw a tiny fraction, that was the tip of an iceberg. A tip of an iceberg. That was my reaction to, yet again, this happening. That is the tip of the iceberg. And if you want to use that as some sort of like mental excuse or validation of whatever, of telling your friends or whatever they think, or whatever they think about me or whatever, fine. But they only saw a tip of an iceberg. None of your friends
Let me ask you a
and
question.
none of this team have actually been there for one of our fights. They've never actually seen.
That's not true.
Really? Have they been in the hallway? Yeah.
They've
Have
heard
they
everything.
seen? Baby, that is absolutely not true. They have not heard everything.
Nathan
Because
could fucking
you,
quote us.
great, he can quote a part of it, but he has not been there. No one has actually been there for a fight in its entirety.
No, how could they?
No, exactly. So stop using that as some sort of excuse. Like, they see it, they know, they work for you, or they're your friends. That
Please
Her
explain
voice
to the
is
jury
annoying, man.
what you were discussing in that
Like
conversation.
a spoiled brat.
Johnny would often use the fact that his, you know, paid employees, his loyal staff would back him up in fights, and that he would constantly threaten to call them in to validate him. They threatened to call them to come into the room to have them back up him and say that it was, that my yelling or that I'm at fault, that I'm in the wrong, that it's all me. And he would do that in almost all of our fights, especially by 2015, that he would call his friends and he'd call his staff in to back him up. So that I knew and would accept that I'm at fault and that I'm wrong. And that was, what I had to agree to over and over again, just even hope that we could have a conversation at some point in a more therapeutic sense so we could move the conversation along. That was his MO, if you will. He'd call people that work for him to back him up.
I'm going to take you to Thanksgiving 2015. Could you please just tell the jury, and we'll go through this one relatively briefly, but tell the jury about Thanksgiving and any altercations you had with Mr. Depp on that occasion.
Thanksgiving 2015, we had friends over. Johnny had Marilyn Manson over, and I had a few of my friends over. We had a son over, and maybe my father. I'm not entirely sure how long he was there. We had dinner together. Johnny was disappearing with Manson, doing coke.
Objection calls for speculation.
All right, I'll sustain that objection.
How do you know he was disappearing with Mr. Manson with coke?
That's what I knew of their relationship at the time. And he was
Objection calls for
disappearing every
speculation.
I'll sustain the objection.
All right.
So
Please continue with the
he
rest of
got
the
up
story.
for a longer period of time, not the normal every 5 minutes to go to the bathroom kind, but like he just appeared for a longer period of time. And at this stage, I was really dependent on recognizing the patterns of what he was. I was reliant on trying to figure out what he was on, what combination he was on, so I knew how to deal with him. It was incumbent on me, because it affected my safety. Dealing with somebody who was really high, dealing with Johnny high on coke and speed, meaning Adderall or some version of that, is different from the opiate Johnny, which is different from the booze Johnny, or a different combination. And there was talk of Quaaludes at the time, and Johnny was trying to get it from
Objection, Your Honor, non-responsive.
I'll sustain the objection. And what else?
So I was.
Please continue.
So I wanted to know what I was dealing with. It was important to my safety to know who.
Objection, non-responsive.
All right,
I think
That's why I followed him.
Okay. All right.
Your Honor.
So what did you
I'll
do next?
I'll sustain the objection. Next question.
What did you do next?
I went upstairs to the apartment, the main apartment, not the apartment that we were celebrating Thanksgiving in, to try to figure out what was going on. And we had an argument that took place downstairs, and I said something to provoke Johnny. I went up the stairs ahead of him to get back to the party. He grabbed me at the top of the stairs, kind of through the stairs actually, by my shirt. Kind of flung me a little bit, but I just remember I went into the bedroom, kind of retreated into the bedroom. I had a glass of wine in my hand at the time, which spilled everywhere and shattered, and I kind of retreated into the bedroom. Johnny came in after me, and there was this heavy, like vintage style glass decanter. He picked up the decanter and hurled it at my head, my face. It missed, thankfully, but smashed into a piece of art behind me in the bedroom wall, above the bed. I got past him. I think there might have been a bit of shoving. I can't really recall and the sequence of when that happened, but I wanted to go back downstairs, and I passed my closet. I had to change my shirt, and I went back downstairs to the party to finish the evening out, and I put on a face, and we finished the evening with the guests, and then more fighting happened afterwards.
So We talked about December 15, 2015, last Thursday, and also the Bahamas over the holidays. But I did miss one picture. And Michelle, can you bring up Defendant's Exhibit 518? Amber, does that accurately depict the scene portrayed?
Yes, it does.
Your Honor, I'd like to move the admission of Defendant's Exhibit 518.
No objection.
All right, 518, defendants and evidence. You can publish.
And this is from December 15, I believe. Could you just please tell the jury what this depicts?
Yes, it's a picture of my bruised temple, and Johnny had his hand on my on part of my face with my face down, and he was punching my head. You know, I'm repeatedly punching my head. That's what caused that bruise in my temple.
Thank you. Now, we went through the Bahamas before, and you returned from the Bahamas sometime late December, early January, correct?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to take you to January, February of 2016. Can you please describe to the jury what was going on with you and Johnny in this January timeframe after this December 15 and the Bahamas incidents?
After the Bahamas, Johnny's sobriety fell apart. There was just none of it. It was, so he stopped communicating with the medical team that he had hired.
Objection calls for speculation.
How do you know that?
I was there. They fired him.
Objection calls for hearsay.
I'll sustain the objection.
Okay. Without telling what the medical people did, go ahead and tell what was going on with you and Johnny.
Yeah, his mental health, for lack of what it looked like, his mental health was just falling apart. It's what it looked like.
Objection calls for speculation.
I'll sustain the objection.
What did you observe that led you to believe that his mental health was falling apart?
He was
Objection, Your Honor. Calls for speculation.
She can say what she
Leading.
observed.
I'll sustain the objection as to leading. Next question.
What, if anything, did you observe about Mr. Depp's state?
He was hallucinating, auditory.
Objection calls for speculation.
I'll sustain the objection.
Please tell the jury exactly what he was doing that led you to believe he was hallucinating.
Objection leading.
Sustained.
What, if anything, was
ladies
Mr. Depp
agree.
doing that would have led you to believe he was hallucinating?
Same objection.
Sustained.
Please describe what Mr. Depp was saying in January of 2016.
He was talking to people who weren't there, meaning people who were not in the room. He was communicating with people and sounds and voices that weren't there. I know because I was sometimes in the room and sometimes on the phone with him. And he would tell me I had a conversation with him that I did not have. He would say I said something that I didn't have. He would comment on somebody being in the room behind me that wasn't there. It was terrifying. It was terrifying because, you know, once he smashed a board right next to my face, and it was unclear to me whether he was even mad at me or he was convinced that the guy he said he saw me with was in the room. I didn't know if Johnny felt the man was in the room with us or not at that point. But I remember he put his fist through a whiteboard in the kitchen. He hallucinated right in front of me. And
Objection calls for speculation.
Don't use the word hallucinate. Just describe what led you to believe
Your
that.
Honor, objection.
I'll sustain the objection. She can testify to what she observed.
Please, thank you, Your Honor. Please tell the jury what you
Your
observed.
Honor, may we approach?
Okay.
Ooh, Elaine loose. Elaine suck.
Please tell the jury what you observed.
I observed behavior from him that was erratic, irrational, and didn't seem connected to the reality that we were in.
Okay. Now I'm going to take you up to the beginning of February of 2016, February 8, February 9. Please tell the jury what transpired then with respect to Mr. Depp.
around this time, Johnny was, again, behaving in a way that was very scary. It was terrifying. And sometimes he didn't know.
Objection calls for speculation.
I think she can describe what she's, what are you describing what you're observing?
Yes.
Please continue.
In these kind of discussions I would have around this time, early February of 2016, sometimes in the argument, he would accuse me of something. Some person in the room with me that had just walked out, or I was hiding, for instance. And sometimes he would hold on to that, even when he seemed to have calmed down or come off of whatever bender he was on. And it was almost as if I had to confront what delusion he had, or what belief he had, or what accusation he made of me, in a new fight altogether. You know, sometimes he didn't make it clear to me whether he was mad at me or he knew he was mad at me. It was terrifying, because I bore the brunt of it. And at around the 8th or 9th, we were in his Sweetser compound, the West Hollywood collection of homes that he has. And I got some cryptic texts from him in the early morning hours that scared me. I won't say what I said, but I came over to his main house. I believe I'd been across the street, and I slept on the couch. We had some interaction in the morning, which made me fearful. He didn't know whether or not I was fearful he was going to believe that he was angry at me. Even though we weren't fighting, I wasn't fighting with him. I had done nothing wrong, but I was really worried that the momentum he was on was going to click into a direction of deciding that he was mad at me and I deserved it. And I was terrified that that was going to happen. So I had an interaction with him and got really worried about that on the morning of the 10th.
All right. Michelle, I'm going to ask you to bring up Defendant's Exhibit 638. It's already admitted in evidence, Your Honor. And this is from February 10, 2016. And I'm going to ask you to play it, Michelle.
What happened? What happened? This morning, you know that?
Were you in here?
No.
So then nothing happened to you this morning?
Yeah, you're right. I just woke up and you were so sweet and nice. We're not even fighting this morning. All I did was say sorry.
Did something happen to you this morning? I don't think so.
No, that's the thing.
You want to see crazy? I'll give you a call.
Mega
Oh,
fine.
you're crazy. You're crazy.
Have you drunk this whole thing this morning?
Oh, you got this going? You got this going?
I just started it.
Oh, really? Really? Sneak that shit on me,
Nope,
motherfucker.
I didn't. You were smashing shit.
Bye.
Why did you videotape this, Amber?
Because I knew he wouldn't remember.
Objection
Deny
calls
it.
for speculation.
Sustain.
Rather than what you knew, you can say what you thought. Just tell us why
Crying
you...
incoming.
I was afraid. It's scary. It's scary. Scared they wouldn't remember.
Objection calls for
Your
speculation.
Honor,
I'll sustain the objection.
all right. So I'm going to now take you up to April 21, 2016, your 30th birthday party. Will you please tell the jury what happened that night with respect to, in particular, Mr. Depp?
He at that time we had a fitting that day or the day before, and he missed it, and he was kind of disappearing at that time, like at night, vaguely saying like meetings. He had meetings, but then he'd be gone for sometimes like 2 days. Just not coming home and that sort of thing. Coming home after a bender
Calls for speculation
Worse.
as to Bender.
I don't think that calls for speculation.
I'll sustain the objection. He's gone for 2 days. Go ahead.
And I had my birthday was coming up, and or on my birthday I said, "Well, are you gonna make it to my birthday party?" We had a dinner planned at our penthouse. I said it would be important for me if you made it.
Objection hearsay.
Not offered to prove the truth of the matter
Overruled.
asserted. Thank you.
And he told me at some point that day that he had scheduled a business meeting or a money meeting, I think he said, maybe, at 7, which is around the time my birthday was planned for. It might have been planned for 8 p.m. He, of course, once my party was starting, he wasn't there. Texted me at some point to let me know that he was going to make it, but that he was running late. And that continued throughout my party. We finished dinner, and when we were cleaning up and kind of everyone was delaying leaving because we were waiting for to give him an opportunity to show up before everyone left. And he let me know he was there. I tried to, without saying what I said, I tried to give him the impression that I wasn't going to get on him about drinking or anything. I just wanted him to be there. And we had a toast. We did a celebratory toast. And the guests left. And later that evening, we were in bed, and I had a book, and Johnny effectively said, what's your fucking problem now? And at the time we were getting advice from therapists without saying what they said. It was important for me not to make him feel attacked. So I chose my words carefully. I won't say what I said, but I remember being very careful about how I worded what I was feeling about my birthday and him having missed it. An argument followed that. I got up out of bed. Johnny's side of the bed was closer to the door than mine. I remember him blocking the door, blocking me to get out, and kind of shoving me down, and we had a verbal argument, and then that became a shoving match. I tried to shove him back. I kind of felt myself retreat into the bedroom. At some point, he picked up a large, I guess it's a Magnum size, not a normal size, a large size bottle of champagne, and hurled it at me. This time it went through a painting, and I loved this painting. I remember it just went like right through the canvas, left a giant hole in it. And I remember thinking we shouldn't have art in our bedroom anymore. And the fight continued into the salon area, which is outside of our bedroom at the top of the stairs. Johnny picked up my phone. I don't know why. I don't remember what he was saying when he did it, but he picked up my phone and threw it out of the open window of the salon area, out onto the street, out onto the downtown street that this window overlooked. In that moment, I went, oh no, you don't. I saw his on the countertop and picked it up and threw his immediately, like 2 seconds later. I didn't want to be stranded this time alone, meaning I didn't want to be the only one stranded without a phone, which had happened to me already several times before this, from Johnny. So I picked up his phone, threw it as well. And I said that I wanted to go stay somewhere else for the evening. I left that room, went into the office. We were still screaming names at each other and screaming at each other. And I walk around the side of his desk, and the next thing I know, he has me by the hair and he pulls me down. Kind of, I hit the side of the desk. I remember things flying off of the side of the desk that I hit with my body. I remember trying to fight him off of me. At some point, we're back in my main bedroom, and I believe I was getting my toothbrush out of that bathroom, and when I came out, we had another shoving match, but this one, he kind of like, I remember he chest bumped me in this like bro-y way, chest bumped me and fell to the floor, and when I got back up, he kind of held me down by the shoulders down on the side of the bed, kind of held me, wrestled me down on the bed. I remember I got up once or twice before I ended up on the bed, and he grabbed me, he did this thing that he did sometimes, and he would taunt me, grab me by the pubic bone, pubic area. Just as best I can describe it is he kind of just pushed me down, held me down by it, and kind of pulled me into it, and he was asking me, kind of taunting me, asking me if I thought I was so fucking tough. I think you're such a fucking tough guy, huh? Are you so tough now? Look who's so tough. You want to be a man? Tough like a man now? That happened for a bit of time. I'm not quite sure. I think at some point he left. I remember at some point shortly after that, I remember he was still in the apartment when this happened, but I remember kind of collapsing on the floor and being exhausted. It's just, I remember feeling exhausted and crying and kind of throwing in the towel, if you will. I remember saying to him, just, can we not fight like this? Like, can we start over? Is there anything that we can do? Like, this is really messed up, but can we just not do this, please? Can we stop doing this? Just don't leave. It's my birthday. Let's just call it couch. Let's just call it truce and not have it end like this. I don't want to have it end like this. I was just so tired.
And then she put me in the bed.
And I remember crying and feeling ridiculous that after this I would be crying and saying these things. I'm embarrassed saying it now. He responded cruelly. He told me it's what I fucking deserve, and that I'd wake up alone, and that no one would ever love me because all of this, pointing to my face or body, all of this was going to go away. No one would ever love me. My tit sag, no one would ever love me, and I better get used to waking up alone. And he said this was all my fault and what I asked for. And he left. I heard him come back in, the downstairs, you can hear the door slam. And I remember hearing it open and thinking, oh God, is this going to happen again? What's going on now? And then shortly after, I kind of peeked around to the top of the stairs where you can kind of peer into the lower level. And I just see him briefly, momentarily, and he just screams at me, happy fucking birthday, and stormed out. At some point, I walked downstairs and saw that he had also left me a note to that effect.
How did he leave a note for you?
I was written on a piece of paper as best I can recall, but I'm not sure.
And so then the next day, what did you do?
I texted, actually, I can't say what I texted. I woke up that morning, the morning of my 30th birthday, and I woke up to my best friend crawling in bed with me and putting her arms around me. And I remember wondering how she walked in, because there was a lot of glass on the floor. There's lots of glass. And she put her arms around me and showed me a birthday video that all of my friends, my childhood friends, all of my loved ones made. Of course, stupidly, the first thing I asked her is why Johnny wasn't in the video, because it had been recorded before. It had been recorded sometime before it was clear. And she said that she'd been asking for a few months, and Johnny just,
Objection, Your Honor, hearsay.
I offered to prove the truth.
All right, I'll overrule. Go ahead.
And so we eventually got out of my bed and grabbed a few things and got the dogs, left for our plans, which our plans had been to go to Coachella, which is a music festival that happens in California. And that had been the plan for a while, that's how we would go and celebrate my birthday. And I remember, as I am accustomed to doing, just trying to move on, and remember in vain trying to put on a brave face and have a good time, even though it was impossible.
Let me stop you for a few things. What, if any, plans were there for Mr. Depp to join you at Coachella?
He was supposed to drive down, have dinner, stay in the room, maybe do some writing or something like that in the room.
At Coachella?
At Coachella, where we were. Coachella happens in a different part of California than we lived in. We lived in Los Angeles, and this happens about 2 to 3 hours away. So I finally got in my car back, and I drove with my best friends in the car.
And I'm going to stop you again because I just have a couple more questions before we go into that part. You said you brought the dogs. Who were the dogs you brought?
Johnny's dog, at the time, Boo. My dog, Pistol. We shared them. They're teacup Yorkies, and I believe Raquel, my best friend's dog, which is a mutt.
Okay. What, if any, issues did Boo have with bathroom problems, if you will?
Objection, leading and relevance.
Dog poop.
Overruled.
Oh my god, liar.
She had eaten Johnny's weed when she was a puppy and had bowel control issues for her entire life,
Bullshit.
among some other issues. She was, we regularly had to take her to
Bullshit.
the vet to try to
Liar.
figure out, well, what was wrong with this dog. Never met a dog that was quite like this. So she had some control issues, hence why she liked to burrow in the bed. She liked to be in the, by the foot of the bed underneath the covers. And it was customary that they slept in bed with us, but Boo, having the issues she had, we have to leave her in bed so that she wouldn't be encouraged to go to the bathroom, which would happen almost immediately once you put her down on the floor. And sometimes it happened in bed too. But yeah.
So what, if
blame it
anything,
on
did
the
you
dog.
notice about any bathroom issues in your bed before you left for Coachella?
Well, Raquel and I were both in that bed with the dogs, and I didn't notice anything, but we left them in the bed while we packed a bag to go to Coachella, so that Boo particularly didn't lose control of her didn't go to the bathroom on the floor. So you leave them in bed until you're ready to take them outside to the patio, which is their designated bathroom break area.
And what, if any, plans were there? How often did you have housekeeping at that time at your house?
The housekeepers were there every morning. Or they came every day, as far as I know.
Okay. Now, we'll get you to Coachella, but why did you tell Starling Jenkins that you had been involved in a prank gone wrong?
Objection, hearsay, leading.
I said why, Your Honor. I didn't say what she said.
I'll sustain the objection. Next question.
Okay. Did you commit any kind of prank?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Bullshit.
And why would that not be something you would do?
First of all, I don't think that's funny. I don't know what grown woman does. I was not also in a pranking mood. My life was falling apart. I was at a crossroads in my life that was really serious, and I had just been attacked on my 30th birthday by my violent husband with whom I was desperately in love and knew I needed to leave. It was not really a jovial time, and I don't think that's funny, period. That's disgusting.
And what, if any, understanding did you have of Mr. Depp
DNA
coming back
test.
to your bedroom that night or the next morning?
Objection calls for speculation.
I'm asking what her understanding was.
No, I'll sustain the objection.
Okay. Had you had any conversations with Mr. Depp about him coming back to the house the next day?
No, Johnny didn't come back to that house. That was my, he owned it, but that was my house when we were having any sort of problem. In fact, that was my house just 90% of the time because he just didn't come back. That was not a place that Johnny was going to be in, that Johnny was in, and he had stormed out on my birthday, and as per what we did, he would go and stay at his West Hollywood home, and I would stay at the downtown places. He wasn't going to come back to the
Objection calls for speculation.
I think she explained her answer on that
Okay,
one, what she
I'll sustain
thought.
just the last part. Okay,
Okay,
next question.
thank you. All right, so let's take you to Coachella. Who drove?
I drove.
Okay. And who was in your vehicle?
My sister, my friend Savannah, I believe, my best friend Raquel, just my girlfriends. I typically surround myself with my girlfriends. It's my sport.
Was there any occasion in which you were riding in the vehicle that Starling Jenkins was driving?
He picked us up
Starling
from
Jenkins.
Coachella in the evening when we, as a group, all were ready to leave. That was the day that we went, which was the day that I took MDMA and mushrooms at the same time. So realized very shortly after what a horrible idea that was, considering the state that my life was in. I highly don't recommend that combination at the time. So I didn't feel like being in a crowd. I didn't feel like being at Coachella. I had intended to try to have a good time despite what was going on in my personal life, and I realized that was just not going to happen. And so I wanted to go home. Meaning to be in a bed. I wanted to be, I just wanted to be held by my best friend and watch a movie, and that's what we did. I didn't feel well and wanted to leave.
Okay. And when you said you rode back with Starling Jenkins, was it just you, or did you have other people in the vehicle with you?
And when we left Coachella, it was my entire group. I wasn't ever alone with Starling. I certainly wasn't anywhere near him. I didn't have a conversation with him. I sat in the very back seat with my best friend next to me, and it was a whole group of us.
Thank you. Your Honor, I don't know, this might be a good breaking point.
All right, that's fine. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and take our morning recess. Do not discuss the case with anybody, and don't do any outside research. We'll take 15 minutes, okay?
15.
All right, we'll just come back then at 10:50. Is that okay? All right, 10:50.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Make a pint. Let's go drink make a pint. Just now I'm very full, now I'm okay a bit. I can drink. Mega pint. Oh, fuck me. Are you fucking serious? Fuck me, man. Oh my god. Fuck me. Jesus. That is Satan doing his work. That is Jesus doing his work. That is Satan doing his work. Oh my fucking fuck. God. Fuck. Fuck, fuck, fuck. Fucking.
In this fight, two different altercations between Johnny and I involved in the door. The first of which we first start talking about, where I'm talking about hitting him, I'm talking about it's what that conversation is about the disparity, the disparity between Johnny and I. He wanted to know what I was dealing with. It was important to my Why did you videotape this, Amber? Because I knew he wouldn't remember. Objection, I answer speculation. Sustain. Rather than what you knew, you could say what you thought, just tell why. I was afraid. Scary. Scary. Scared. Scared they wouldn't remember. Objection calls for speculation. I sustain the objection. Alright. So I'm going to now take you back to April 21. I think it's among some other issues, was, we regularly had to take the vet to try to figure out, well, what was wrong with this dog. Never met a dog that was quite like this. So she had some control issues, hence why she liked to burrow in the bed. She liked to be in the, by the foot of the bed underneath the covers, and it was customary that they slept in bed with us, but having the issues she had, we have to leave her in bed so that she wouldn't be encouraged to go to the bathroom, which would happen almost immediately once you put her down on the floor. And sometimes it happened in bed too. Marcello, but why did you tell Starling Jenkins that you had been involved in a prank gone wrong?
Objection, hearsay, lady.
I said why, Your Honor. I didn't say what she said. I'll state the objection.
We ready for the jury?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Sure, sure.
Does that make sense? Okay.
All right, ready for the jury then? Yes. All right.
Let's go. Let's go. Let's go.
2016.
What, if any, contact did you have with Mr. Depp during the period from April 21 to May 21, 2016?
I had no physical contact with him.
Okay. I'm going to take you to May 2nd, 2016, the Met Gala. Can you please just briefly describe to the jury what a Met Gala is, where it is, and what's involved?
Satanic ceremony.
It's arguably the biggest fashion kind of celebrity event, red carpet event of the year. It happens every year in New York City.
And were you invited?
I was invited. Typically, designers will invite people in the public eye to be
Illuminati
there,
party.
Guests, and they will typically dress them, and it's a way for designers or fashion to kind of intersect with a celebrity world, and it's a big event held at the museum every year.
And
Museum.
what, if anything, did you and Mr. Depp do to prepare for that Met Gala?
Well, Johnny and I were we were dressed by Ralph Lauren, guests of Ralph Lauren, and Johnny missed the fitting because it was happening around the date of my birthday party in Los Angeles. But we were planning on going together as Ralph Lauren's guests.
Okay. And did you show up?
I did. I didn't have a phone at the time because I couldn't get it reinstated after Johnny threw it out of the window because no one on his team would respond to me. So I had no way to kind of reinstall it. I had, it's no point in getting a burner phone if you don't know anyone's phone number. So I wasn't sure really what was going on or when he would show up or if he would show up. No one would talk to me on his team. No one would tell me. I didn't know. So I ended up going by myself. Frankly, I wasn't sure if he'd show up and, on the carpet or if he'd
And she
show up
met
at the
Elon Musk.
hotel shortly before. I had no way of knowing.
And then did you attend the Met Gala?
I did. I got out of the car and walked the red carpet by myself, escorted by somebody from Ralph Lauren's team. And I sat next to an empty place setting for Johnny that they cleared as soon as we realized that he had effectively stood me up on the carpet.
Who did you meet at the Met Gala?
Elon Musk.
I was standing in line right in front of a gentleman. It was Elon. I didn't recognize him until we started talking. And he had reminded me that we had met once before. He was with his mother.
Okay. And did you strike up a friendship with Mr. Musk after that?
We did. We, as I mentioned, we spoke on the red carpet, kind of in the waiting line of the carpet.
Elon
He
Musk
seemed like
is evil.
a real gentleman. He was really nice, and he sat next to me. Well, not next to me. He sat kind of at a nearby table, and we got to speaking that night, and then eventually became friends.
Mega pint.
I'm going to, Michelle, can you pull up Plaintiff's Exhibit 46?
Friends with benefits.
It's already in evidence. It's Aaron Filati's notes. And I'm going to ask you to go to page 30.
Oh my god, too heavy. Oh. Let's cheers one for
And
all the
I'm going
viewers.
to direct your attention to
Mega pie,
the
let's
entry
go.
for 5/11/2016, where it says,
Oh,
if I can
nice.
see, here we go. Let me see if I can do some reasonable highlighting here.
Very heavy.
Okay, it says client laughed and also recorded using illicit drugs, mushrooms and MDMA on 5/9/2016 at home with a high-profile male acquaintance. Client reported that her husband was not aware of the male visitor nor her illicit drug use. Do you see that?
Yes, I do.
Who was the high-profile male acquaintance that visited your home on 5/9/2016?
I don't recall even being in LA at that time.
Where were you?
I don't recall. I believe I was in London at the time.
Okay. Did you have a male high-profile client at your home in or around 5/9/2016?
Elon Musk.
Not around that date. It seems like it's a wrong date.
Okay. And did you use illicit drugs, mushrooms, and MDMA with any high-profile client?
No, I did that at the Coachella Music Festival, and that was the end of that. I learned the hard way that that was a terrible idea.
All right. Well, while we are on these same notes, I'm going to refer to the Coachella, which is up above, and it says it states she
Make a pint.
ingested mushrooms and MDMA simultaneously while also consuming alcohol, and states she vomited and was high for at least 24 hours straight. Were you high for at least 24 hours straight?
No, I was not. I felt awful, but I was at home feeling awful. At home, meaning at the hotel, with my best friend in bed.
Okay. Well, while I'm still on these notes, let's go. I know while Aaron Filati was testifying, we recall the 5/21/2016 isn't on here. You'd sent her pictures, correct?
Yes, I did.
Then let's go to 5/26/2016, and it says, client reports having the hardest week of my life. Client states she cannot deal with the negative media publicity she has received. And then if we can jump that up, Michelle, to the next page, surrounding the divorce she requested from her husband, J.D. Do you see that?
I do.
Okay. When did you go in for the DVTRO?
May 27th.
So that was the day after Aaron Filati's note saying you just had the toughest week of your life?
That's correct.
Okay. While we are still on this one, let's go up to the first page for the client history. When did you provide a client history to Aaron Filati?
Never.
When did you first get assigned Aaron Filati?
I believe September of 2014.
Okay. Now it says here that client reports a history of substance abuse, including an addiction to cocaine and liquor. When did you have a history of substance abuse, including addiction to cocaine and liquor?
I did not. There's a lot of mistakes in here.
Okay. Did you ever use cocaine?
I have. I used cocaine a few times when I was 18, 19 years old, but stopped using any drugs, including cocaine, when I got into a relationship with my ex-partner. She was very against that, and I'm glad for it.
Okay. Then it also says here that where am I? Move up a little. Here we go. Client admits to history of anxiety, eating disorder, attention deficit disorder, bipolar disorder, codependence issues, and occasional insomnia. When have you had an eating disorder?
I've never had an eating disorder.
Okay. When have you been diagnosed with bipolar disorder?
I've never been diagnosed with bipolar disorder.
When have you been diagnosed with codependence issues?
I have never been diagnosed with codependency issues, although arguably at the time, from where I stand now, I can see that the relationship I was in with Johnny was certainly codependent.
Okay.
But I wouldn't have reported that at the time. I didn't know about that.
All right, and then can we move up a little bit more, Michelle? Thank you. It has, per report from JD, Debbie RN, Dr. Kipper, client AH has reportedly been experiencing increased anxiety and agitation recently and has had several outbursts of anger and rage. Were you present for this being reported to Ms. Filati?
No, this is the detox.
Okay.
This is Johnny's.
And it also says your mood has been labile. What, if any, outbursts of anger and rage and labile mood did you exhibit during the detox?
None that she would have seen. None. I was there for Johnny's detox. This is what Johnny was going through. This is not me.
Okay. And at the time of the detox, was Erin Filati your nurse yet?
No, I didn't know her, and she wasn't there.
Okay. Thank you very much. You can take this down, Michelle. Now, I'm going to take you to May 21, 2016, and I'd like you to describe for the jury what took place that evening in connection with Mr. Depp.
Johnny and I had not seen each other for the better part of a month, or about a month. I was traveling. I had just shot a campaign in Italy. I spoke to him around that time when I was in Italy. I had gotten a phone. My parents got a hold of me. After I spoke to my parents, I had communicated with Johnny. He, on that phone call, I didn't know what was going on with him for those weeks. With his sobriety, I didn't know where his state was. I didn't know what state he was in. And when I spoke to him, he was saying what I can only just, he was going on about scientists and DNA and feces, that he had some scientific analysis done and DNA analysis done, and that as soon as I heard about this feces, he thought that was a prank, and he was going on about all the scientists that he had conferred about the DNA results with. I just thought he was out of his mind, and thought clearly the drinking and the drugs are not getting better. Clearly the delusions aren't better. So
Objection calls for speculation.
Objection.
It's not about the truth of the matter. We're talking about what.
Let's go, Camille. Bankers.
Please continue.
So I
Objection.
I hung up from that phone call, assuming that, and then spoke to him once my parents got a hold of me to tell me about Betty Sue. We made a plan, Johnny and I, for him to come over. He said he really needed his wife. He had lost his mother and he missed his wife. He really needed his wife. He said it over and over again. I felt torn. I felt conflicted. I didn't think, obviously, the situation hadn't gotten better with Johnny mentally, and I was afraid that all the work and progress and distance I had finally got on the relationship for the first time. I had a month of distance on it, I didn't want that to be undone, but I also wanted to be, I was affected by the fact that his mother had passed. So he said he wanted to come over and talk about that, and he said he needed his wife, and we made a plan. We made a plan for him to come over during the day, thinking that might mitigate the amount that he would be drinking. Night is a little bit more dangerous. And in the early evening hours, I get a text from him that he's almost there, or that he's there. I think it was around 7:15 or so. And he came over, and we sat on the couch, and at first it was relatively peaceful. I mean, I could tell he was inebriated, but it makes sense. In my head, it made sense. He wasn't like incoherent. It was peaceful. And then he starts talking about the feces again, and this prank that he said one of my friends had left for him in my bed that he wasn't going to be at. And I tried to point out how that didn't make any sense. I was not even going to be there. I wasn't there. And my friends wouldn't do that. That's not something a bunch of 30-year-old women think is funny. What is he talking about? And he just kept going on and on about it. So I text my friend that it's...
Objection, hearsay.
Don't tell the jury what you texted your friend, but go to the next thing. What did you do next?
I called my friend thinking that it would quell this, what I could only see as a delusion. I thought it was just a delusion he was having, and I thought, I'll hopefully, quell this by calling my friend to if he hears my friend say that didn't happen.
Objection, Your Honor, hearsay.
It's not offering to prove the truth of the thing.
Let's go.
Please continue.
So I thought if I could get my friend on the phone to prove that this didn't happen, we could move on and talk about the issues that we should be talking about. You know, our marriage was over and falling apart in front of our eyes. We hadn't seen each other for a month, and his mom had just passed. I couldn't believe he wanted to talk about feces. So I call this friend thinking that we'll take care of it. The friend doesn't answer. I call another friend who is someone else he claimed. I don't know how both people did this, but he was claiming that this person was responsible. So I called that person. And that person is on speakerphone. And I
Tell
say,
us who that person is.
Io.
Io Tillett-Wright?
Io Tillett-Wright.
Okay. And then you put him on speakerphone with Johnny?
Right in front of Johnny.
Okay. And what happened next?
I allowed for an opportunity for Io to say why this is impossible.
Objection, hearsay.
It's not offered to prove the truth of the matter, is asserted, Your Honor. It's explaining the context that leads to the next acts.
Your Honor, it is being offered
We're
to
not
prove
here.
that.
We're not here about whether Io.
Shut up,
Elaine. Elaine, you angry?
Next question.
Stupid Karen.
All right.
Cheers. Mega pint. Elaine
All
is
right,
pissed.
so Io is talking. You can't tell us what he said. Okay.
Objection, Your Honor.
Correct?
Oh my
May we
god.
approach?
Okay.
Okay. Fuck you, Elaine, Karen. I know you are pissed off. Woo, 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 boo, boo. Loser. Karen got pissed, triggered.
So Io is talking. We can't say what he said. What is the next thing that happens on your end with Mr. Depp?
It just made Johnny madder. He got more upset, grabbed the phone, and started screaming at Io. He just started screaming at the top of his lungs, said, "You dyke bitch, you don't know what you're talking," just screaming expletives, insulting names, and telling Io that he can have me and, fuck off, and just screaming at him. That's best I can describe it without getting into the details. He tosses the phone, down on the couch and heads upstairs. I pick up the phone and try to, apologize for the fact that my husband at the time just screamed at my friend on a cold call. I didn't want Io to think that's why I had called Io, to just be screamed at and blamed for something that sounded crazy, for lack of a better explanation. It sounded crazy. Io said something to me on speakerphone, and reminded me I wasn't safe.
Objection, Your Honor, hearsay.
Your Honor, it's not offered to prove the truth of the matter. It's to show what caused Mr. Depp to be set off and come back. I mean, it's not offered to prove the truth of what he's saying. It's not hearsay. In that
I'll overrule the objection. Go ahead.
Thank you. Please tell us what Io said and what then happened with Mr. Depp.
Woo. Io said, "Amber, get out of the house. Get out of the house now. You're not safe. Get out of that house." Io had been there after the cleanup, or for the cleanup, after December 15th, 2015 incident.
Objection, Your Honor, non-responsive.
I think she could provide the context.
I'll sustain the objection. Next question.
Okay, so please continue.
Johnny hears this when he's on the stairs. He made it up one flight of stairs. Heard this, turned around, came bolting down the stairs, grabbed the phone from my hand, and really started screaming this time. Lit into Io, called Io every imaginable horrible name that you can say to a LGBTQIA person, for one, and any person, any human being ever. I mean, just screamed at Io some really nasty stuff. And when he was done, he says, you want to have my woman now. You want to have my bitch. You can have, you take her, you can have her. And he with that, picks up, just pulls his arm back with the phone and throws it at my face. Hit me right in my, it felt like my eye. I put my head in my hands.
You are not
and
sure.
Immediately start crying. I said, "You hit me with the phone. Johnny, you hit me." And I'm sitting on the couch. I didn't even have time to react, you know. I didn't even have time to put my hands up. I was still sitting cross-legged in my socks on the couch, and I haven't seen him for a month. And several times now that I've seen him, he's hit me, and I didn't even have time to react.
Where's the scar?
He comes over to me as I'm crying, and he does that taunting thing to me. He says, "Oh yeah, I hit you, huh? I hit you, yeah?" And he just feels like whacks me on top of my head. Just this heavy ringed hand landed on top of my skull, grabs me by the hair, yanks me up off the couch. I'm struggling to stand up. And I don't know if he was intending to hit me in the face, or if he was just trying to grab my face, but he was making this gesture around my face to try to expose my face to him. And he was like, "Yeah, let me see how bad I hurt you. Let me see it. Let me see how bad I hurt you this time. What if I pull your hair back? What if I pull your hair back?" And he yanks my hair back. I'm trying to prevent him from landing the blows to my face. I'm trying to prevent my face from being exposed. And I just remember this mocking taunt he was doing with me as he is yanking me around the room. And then I hear my friend come into the room. I hear her. Johnny hears her too. He lets go of me and turns and...
Just tell the jury who your friend is.
Raquel, my best friend at the time, who lived in the neighboring apartment. She came in, and Johnny moved towards her, and she ran towards me. Johnny looked at her, looked at me. I retreated to the only place I had to go, which is the corner room where the couch was. I retreated kind of to the couch, and Raquel and Johnny both ran up to me. Raquel got in front of Johnny. She kind of managed to get right in front of him, in between he and I.
Bullshit.
And I'll never forget it. Just very slowly, calm, in just a very slow but very concentrated, very controlled, slow way. Just put both of her arms, her hands up like this, and like I've seen people do with horses. That's what it reminded me of. She just went, "No, no, Johnny, no." And she just got in front of us, in between us, put both of her palms out. Johnny kind of squared off to her, ran into her arms, and she just repeated herself very slowly, very calmly, very directly. He hit both of her arms off of his chest like that and barreled towards me. I instinctively curl up on the couch, and I just feel her arms come around me, next to me. She was sitting on my left next to me on the couch, and I just feel her arms around me. And I'm just looking down at the carpet, feeling her arms. And that's when Johnny, who I can see partially and hear, is right in front of me, and he's screaming at me to get the fuck up. "Amber, get the fuck up. Amber, get the fuck up. Amber, get the fuck up." And every single time he said it, he's screaming it louder and louder and louder. I think he screamed it probably about 10 times, so loudly. The next thing I hear is, "Boss, boss." And I realize that his 2 security guards had come into the apartment after Raquel. I see them or hear them, and Johnny turns to them, and I see Jerry say, "Boss, boss." And I get up off the couch and I say to Jerry,
Objection, Your Honor, hearsay.
Yes,
Not offered
let's
to
go.
prove the truth of the matter asserted at all.
I'll sustain the objection.
All right.
Next one.
So don't tell us what you said to Jerry, just what happened next.
Then they tell him something, and he picks up the bottle that I guess he walked in with. It was a
This is
Magnum.
Mr. Depp or Jerry?
I'm sorry, Johnny.
Okay.
And starts smashing things off the nightstand, the coffee table, starts screaming, and they kind of, I feel them kind of corral him. I'm not making direct eye contact, but I can kind of just sense and feel and sound and hear things smashing as he exits the apartment, kind of knocking things off the countertops and breaking things on the way. I realize he's punching something. I assume it was the picture because it broke right after he walked past it. And he leaves that apartment. I hear him in the hallway, still screaming. I hear more doors opening, more racket. Eventually, Josh, Raquel's husband, comes into the room and brings me to safety, brings Raquel and I to safety in their apartment. And that's where I stayed for the next few hours.
So who called the police?
I believe it was
Objection
Io.
calls for speculation.
Your Honor, this is not, we have to have the context here of somebody called the police, because then the police come. So I think we have to put, it's not offered again to prove the truth of the matter asserted, it's just who called the police.
Your Honor, the objection is not hearsay. It's speculation.
Do you know who called the police?
Yes, I do now.
I'll sustain the objection.
All
Next
right.
question.
Did you have were you present when there was a discussion about calling 911?
Objection calls for hearsay.
I'm asking if she was
I'll
present.
sustain the objection. Next question.
Nice one, Camille.
Did you call
I
911?
love you, Camille.
No.
Okay. Did Rocky call 911?
Objection calls for speculation.
Do you know whether Rocky
One
called
more.
911?
I do know whether she did.
And did
She did not.
Okay. All right. So what happens, when did you learn that the police had been called?
Mega pint. Let's go.
Roughly an hour, at some point shortly after Johnny and his security guards left.
Okay. And what did you do as a result of knowing that the police were coming?
I felt panicked. I didn't know what to do because I didn't know what they were going to do when they saw the state of the place. He'd also smashed up the other apartment where I kept all my things. So I didn't know what they were going to do. And I panicked. I called the only lawyer I have, which is my entertainment lawyer. He does like my movie contracts and stuff. And I asked him for advice.
And then without telling what he said, what happened next?
I called a domestic relations attorney after that conversation.
And had you known this domestic relations attorney before then?
No, I did not.
Did you get that name from your entertainment attorney?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And when you called the domestic relations attorney, without saying what she said, what did you do as a result?
I told the police officers who arrived that I would not
Objection, Your Honor. Hearsay.
Again, not offered to prove the truth of the matter asserted.
All right. I'll overrule the objection. Go ahead.
Thank you. I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
I repeated to the officers, I refuse to cooperate at this time at the advice of my attorney.
Okay. Did you call your publicist that night?
No.
Okay. Now, I'm going to ask you to take a look at some pictures, but before I get there, I want to just ask you a couple of questions leading up. What were you doing when the police officers arrived?
At that time, after I learned that they were coming, my best friend took pictures of me. We took pictures of the house and my face.
Okay. I'm going to, and did your best friend take any pictures while the officers were there?
We took pictures before and while they were there and after.
Okay.
We took pictures throughout.
Okay. So I'm going to take you, now, Michelle, can you bring up Defendant's Exhibit 706? I think we can do the native on this one. Yes, thank you. Does this accurately depict the scene portrayed?
Yes, it does.
Your Honor, I'd like to move the admission of Defendant 706.
No objection.
706 in evidence and published.
And would you please describe to the jury what this is a picture of?
This is my face
So light.
after Johnny threw a phone at it.
Okay. I'm going to now, Michelle, ask you to pull up Defendant's 708. And does this accurately depict the scene portrayed in this picture?
Yes, it does.
All right. And I also see that there is a little, what we call metadata item on there.
Metadata.
How do you get that on a picture?
Metaverse.
How does that happen? Can you just describe briefly?
Objection, Your Honor. That's speculation.
Oh,
Lack of
no.
foundation.
You want to approach?
Yeah.
Cheers. Mega Pine.
Yes, it,
Wow, 530,000. My God.
Can you please explain how this particular item on here got onto the pictures?
it's a feature that was on iPhotos. You know, where your pictures are stored on your phone. Typically, you just push info.
And was that pushed in these instances?
I
of
pushed
these pictures?
info, and that's what came up.
Okay. Your Honor, I'm going to move the admission of Defendant's 708.
Any objection to 708?
Your Honor, I would just ask the picture be redacted on hearsay grounds
Your Honor,
for the metadata.
Okay, if you want
alleged
to approach again.
metadata.
Okay.
Oh, gorgeous. My baby Camilla. Oh my God. So beautiful. Ah!
Your Honor, one moment, please. I'm
All
just
right.
trying to figure out how to move this fast.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay. All right. I'm going to move the admission of 708 with the redaction, Your Honor.
Okay, any objection to that?
There still needs to be another redaction at the top, Your Honor.
Okay. We'll get it.
Thank you.
Beautiful voice. Beautiful
Okay,
face.
708 with the redactions, okay?
Thank you, Your Honor, and I would also like the record to reflect that, we're publishing this to the jury?
Yes, no
Make
objection.
up
correct?
lah.
Yes. There we go.
Okay, I would like the record to reflect that this was the
Just
photo
make up.
that was shown to Officer Sines and Officer Haddon. as
Objection, Your
Exhibit
Honor.
20
That is-
Your Honor, we
that
couldn't
is
put him in
inappropriate, Your
because
Honor.
we hadn't identified him. Now the jury should be entitled to know which photo
Your
was
Honor, we ask
shown
that we
as
approach-
that
Okay,
exhibit.
we can approach.
This is
It's fine.
inappropriate.
Fight. Fight. Just fight. Rude. So fucking rude, man.
So, for the record, this particular photo was shown to Officer Sines and Officer Haddon as Exhibit 24 in both of the depositions that were
Blush.
shown earlier, where pictures were not allowed to be shown yet because they hadn't been admitted. Amber, will you please describe for the jury what is depicted in this photo?
Yes, that's a picture of my face taken that evening,
Botox.
shortly before 9:30, after Johnny hit me with the phone.
Botox.
Okay. Now we can take this one down and let's go to Defendant's Exhibit 709. And based on the court's ruling, I'm going to ask if you can redact that, Michelle, please. I'm going to move the admission of 709.
All right, any objection?
Not with retractions. Thank you.
709 with redactions and evidence, you can publish.
If it could be published to the jury, Your Honor, thank
It
you.
is.
And Your Honor, for the record, this is the photo that was shown to Officer Sines and to Officer Haddon as Exhibit 25 for both of their depositions.
My God.
Amber, could you please describe for the
blush.
jury what's depicted here?
That is my face
Why did I hit the
After-
nose?
after the phone incident. It's that night.
All right, let's bring Defendant 710, please. And Your Honor, I'm going to move the admission of Exhibit 710. The redactions have been already placed
All
on
right.
it.
Any objection?
No objection.
All
Thank
right,
you.
710 with redactions, you can publish.
If we could publish, Your Honor. And for the record, this photo was shown to Officer Sines and Officer Haddon. It was Exhibit 26 for both of their depositions. And please describe for the jury what's depicted here, Amber.
That is my face in yet a different light that same evening
Make up.
after Johnny hit me with the phone.
Make up.
Okay.
It's just make
Let's
up.
go ahead and go to Defendant's Exhibit 711.
7-Eleven. Hitting another comment. 7-Eleven. Oh my God. 7-Eleven.
And I'm going to move the
7-Eleven.
admission of 711, Your Honor, with the redactions.
All right, any objection?
No objection.
All right, 711 with redactions and evidence, publish.
Advertisement.
And for the record, Your Honor, for the jury's purposes, this was shown to Officer Sines and Officer Haddon as Exhibit 27 to both of their depositions. And could you describe what's depicted here, Amber?
Yes, that is another angle, another lighting.
15
of my
million
face,
makeup.
after the phone
And
that
when,
evening.
And when you say angular lighting, what did Rocky do in taking these pictures?
Objection calls for speculation.
I said, what'd she do?
Oh, objection.
Thank
Oh, no.
Raquel
Drink.
took pictures of my face in various places around the penthouse. The penthouse the apartments have really different lighting, really dark in some places. Anyway, so we just took pictures in different lighting so that we had an accurate portrayal and depiction of what had happened.
Make up.
And why did you take the pictures?
Raquel did it to protect me because the cops were coming, and we knew we knew that the police. I think at this point that they were already here. They were with us, but we weren't. Maybe this was right before. I'm not quite sure without seeing the timestamp, but we weren't sure what was going to happen, what the police were going to say, what they were going to do.
Should use water to wash it. Try
We
it.
didn't know what Johnny was going to do, what he was going to say, so she wanted to protect me.
Okay. So let's go ahead and bring up 712.
Wow, 400多 break record 啊 maybe 600,000 viewers breaking record.
All right, now move the admission of 712, Your Honor.
All right, any objections?
No, thank you, Your
All
Honor.
right, 712 with redactions, you can publish.
Thank you, Your Honor. And please describe what's depicted here.
That is another picture of my face,
Okay.
taken around the same time.
Okay. And then let's go to 713.
Oi. Five, 4, 1. Okay. Let's go. Let's go. 5, 4, 2.
Move the
Highest
admission of
already,
713,
maybe.
Your Honor.
All right, any objection?
No objection.
All right, 713 with redactions, you can publish.
And for the record, this one was shown to Officer Sines and Officer Haddon as well as Exhibit 29 to both of their depositions. And just describe briefly to the jury what this is.
This is another picture of my face taken at the exact same time and in the same location as the other one, just with one of the lights turned on, or an additional light turned on in the previous one.
Okay. Let's go to 714. Move the admission of 714, Your Honor.
No objection.
All right, 714 with
makeup.
redactions, you can publish.
And please tell the jury what this depicts.
Just now,
This
no
is,
cut. Now got cut.
another angle of my face or another picture of my face taken at a different time. I don't know if this is later or before because I can't see the time on it.
Okay. You can take that down. Let's go to 715.
Fugazi.
I'm going to move the admission of 715, Your Honor.
No objection.
All right, 715 with redactions, in evidence, you can publish.
Thank you. And for the record, this one was shown to Officer Sines and Officer Haddon as Exhibit 17 for both. Please describe for the jury what's depicted here.
That is a picture of my face. Some point later on in the night, it looks like that was taken in Rocky's apartment or in the apartment that she was staying in.
Okay. And let's go to 716.
Looks normal. Botox.
Move the admission of 716.
No objection, Your Honor.
All right. 716 evidence as redacted.
And Emmer, could you please tell the jury what this picture depicts?
Yes, it's the business card that one of the police officers left for me in case I changed my mind and wanted to comment.
Okay. And with the pictures that we have just seen before this, were they taken before the pictures of the police card, the card that was left after, or do you know?
Objection, compound.
It's not.
And calls for
Your
speculation.
Honor, compound is
Overruled.
Thank you.
Objection.
We took pictures before, during, and after.
And the question I had for you is the pictures you've seen so far, were those taken before, at the time of this, before this card was presented to you and you took the picture, after, or do you know?
Some of them were, but without seeing all the timestamps, I can't tell exactly.
Okay, that's fair. Thank you. Okay, and then I'm going to ask you to take this one down and go to 717.
$7.17. Mashallah. Mashallah.
And I'm going to ask you, I'm going to move the admission of 717, Your Honor.
Any objection?
No objection.
All right, 717 is redacted in evidence. Published.
Thank you. And please just briefly describe to the jury what this is.
The two officers that first responded left me that card. This is the front of the business card they left.
A reminder that
Can
respond
you
with Mrs. War body
tell the
camera
jury,
did not show
just
any injuries.
explain what the interaction
The doctor
was
never
that you
observed
had
injury
with
on
the
her
police
either.
officers, just describing what you observed as they came through.
I did not want to speak to them. I asked that Raquel's partner or husband ask them to go away without speaking to me.
And just so the jury understands, who was Raquel's fiance at that time?
His name is Josh Drew, and he and Raquel lived in the apartment at Johnny's invitation across the hall from us. Raquel had keys. We kind of shared keys. They were our neighbors, but had keys to our house.
Okay. So why didn't you want to cooperate with the police?
Because I wanted to protect Johnny. I didn't want him to be arrested. I didn't want him to be in trouble. I didn't want the world to know. I didn't want this to come out.
Johnny
I
laughing.
didn't want him to be in trouble. I didn't want this
She
to be...
copied Johnny's line.
I wanted to protect Johnny.
Let's go to Defendant's Exhibit 1374. That's 1374. One moment, Your Honor.
All right.
Thank you. All right, move the admission of 1374A, Your Honor.
Any objection?
No objection.
1374 in evidence, 1374A in evidence, sorry.
Thank you, Your Honor. And Amber, what is this?
It's another picture of my face after Johnny threw the phone at it.
Okay. And then let's go to 1493T.
Makeup lah. Makeup. It's makeup.
And move the admission of 1493T.
No objection.
All right, 1493T in evidence.
And what does this depict?
This is a picture of my face after that incident. Perhaps
No
by the lighting,
injury.
it looks like it might have been taken the next day, but I can't tell. I can't tell for sure.
Okay. And then let's go to 1493S.
No injury at all. So stupid.
And move the admission of 1493S.
No objection.
All right, 1493S in evidence, published.
And what does this depict?
And this is another picture of my eye and side of my face.
Now, were there also pictures taken of the property that you described Mr. Depp destroying or damaging?
Yes, there were.
Okay. Michelle, can you bring up Defendant's Exhibit 700? And Based on Your Honor's rulings, we will take off the metadata.
Metadata. Metadata.
Move the admission of Defendant's Exhibit 700.
No objection with redaction.
700 with redactions, you can publish.
Can you please describe for the jury what's depicted in this photo?
Yes, my friend was preparing for a bead show and had displays to show these bead necklaces she made. And she needed some counter space in order to kind of set up the displays that she was going to use the next day. So she asked me earlier in the day if she could use the free counter space in that penthouse, Penthouse 5, to kind of set up those display racks. They were set up in that room when Johnny went in there to destroy things, as he does.
And this depicts some of that damage?
Yeah, security let him in, even though I had asked
Objection,
her
Your
not
Honor,
to.
speculation.
Oh, objection.
I don't think that was
And
speculation.
lack of foundation.
Oh, I'll sustain as a foundation if you want.
Okay. So what's depicted in, what's the damage that was done?
Well, because Johnny would always smash up my things and destroy my property when he was mad at me. I had asked that they not let him in so that he could do that. I mean, the only purpose for him to be let into Penthouse 5 in that state, he doesn't have property in there. The only reason for him to go in there would be to destroy it. And they, of course, let him into Penthouse 5.
Objection, Your
So
Honor.
that he could go.
Yes, ma'am.
Lack of foundation.
All right, I'll sustain the objection. Next question.
Just tell the jury what he did here that's depicted in this.
This is just a one corner of the room that shows the destruction. He just went in there with this bottle swinging and smashed a bunch of things.
Objection, Your Honor. This is speculation.
Come on,
It hasn't
baby.
established that she was there.
I'll sustain if you want to lay a foundation. It's fine.
Okay. Did anybody else, to your knowledge, go in there and do this?
Objection, Your Honor.
Oi.
Calls for speculation.
Trying to lay the foundation here, Your Honor.
I'll sustain the objection. Next
Well,
question.
let's do this. Never mind, we'll let somebody else tell who did it, okay?
Sure.
Just all I'm asking here is
Please.
what is the damage? What has been done that's depicted here?
This is just one of Raquel's bead racks that he
Objection, Your Honor. Speculation.
I'll sustain the
All right,
objection.
let's go to 701. Move the admission of 701.
With redaction, no objection.
All right, 701 with redactions and evidence.
Thank you. Amber, can you please describe what's depicted here?
Yeah, it is our bedroom in Penthouse 3, the main penthouse. Looks like he was just throwing things.
Objection, Your Honor. Calls for
Sustain the
speculation.
objection.
So just describe what you see here as opposed to what you say he did. 'cause,
I see a bunch of art tossed on the bed.
Okay, where was that art before Mr. Depp was at your house on May 21, 2016?
Hanging on the wall where it belongs.
Okay. Let's go to, Michelle, can you bring up defendant 702, please?
For 555.
Oh, Your Honor, and I
555.
forgot on the last two. For Defendant's Exhibit 700, that was shown to Officer Sines and Haddon. It was Exhibit 39 to both of theirs. And Exhibit 701 was shown to
555 was-
Haddon only, and that was Exhibit 30 in his deposition. I move the admission of 702, please.
All right, any objection?
No objection.
All right, 702 with redactions.
Thank you, Your Honor. And let the record reflect this was also shown to Officer Haddon as deposition exhibit number 40.
What the hell
And
is
can you
that?
please describe for the jury what's depicted here?
Yes, it has broken glass from one of the broken pictures that were hanging on the wall.
And where is this physically?
This is in penthouse 5 on the stairwell.
Okay. Michelle, can you bring up defendant 703, please? Move the admission of defendant 703.
No objection.
All right, 703 with redactions, you can publish.
Thank you, Your Honor. And let the record reflect that this was shown to Officer Sines and Officer Haddon as Exhibit 41 for both of their depositions. And Amber, please describe for the jury what's depicted here.
It's another photograph of this stairwell in the same apartment, penthouse 5, which is the apartment where I kept my things.
Okay. And is that glass on the stairway?
Yes, from one of the broken picture frames on the wall. We had a lot of picture. I had a lot of picture frames on the walls, and many, if not most of them, were smashed.
Okay. Let's take this one down and go to 704, please. Defendants. Michelle, thank you. Move the admission of defendant 704.
No objection.
All right, 704 with redactions, you can publish.
Thank you, and let the record reflect that this was shown to both Officer Sines and Haddon as Exhibit 34 to both their depositions. And Amber, please describe for the jury what's depicted here.
Just another piece of glass. It looks like the base of a wine glass. That is in penthouse 3, the main apartment.
Okay. And when you say wine glass, did you see this particular glass?
There were glasses in the kitchen, and always. And when Johnny was walking out, I saw him
Always.
swinging the magnum-sized bottle, and I could hear glass
Magnum-sized
breaking
bottle.
and things falling.
Not mega pint.
Thank you. Michelle, can you bring up 705, please?
Mega pint, let's go. Magnum-sized bottle.
Move the admission of 705.
No redaction. No, excuse me, no objection.
All right,
And let the
705 in evidence. with
Thank you,
redactions.
Your Honor.
Thank you, go ahead.
And let the record reflect this was shown to Officer Haddon in Exhibit 36 of his deposition. Amber, can you please describe for the jury what's portrayed here?
Things
Magnum
knocked
pint.
over on the kitchen countertop, and I see pieces of broken glass on the countertop as well.
Okay. Let's go to 707.
Illuminati Eye. Chẳng phải biểu tiền.
Jury, what's depicted here?
This is the hallway leading leading up to the apartments. So this is the hallway that connects all of the apartments. It's kind of an indoor-outdoor sort of hallway, meaning it's covered, but it's exposed on the far ends of both to the elements. So this is not carpet. It's like a plasticky. I don't know how to describe the material. It's like a plasticky kind of netting, not netting. It's difficult to describe, but it's a kind of an outdoor sort of carpet.
All right, and what's depicted there?
Wine on the floor and a little on the wall, it seems.
Okay. Let's go to 718, please. Move the admission of 718.
No objection.
All right, 718 with redactions and evidence.
And let the record reflect this was shown to Officer Sines and Officer Haddon in Deposition Exhibit 31 for both of them. Amber, please describe for the jury what's depicted here.
It's another photograph on the floor, not the wall. This one appears to be remarkably unbroken.
Okay. Let's go to 719, please.
These are evidence. What the fuck?
Move the admission of defendant 719.
No objection.
All right, 719 with redactions. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. And let the record reflect that this was shown to Officer Sines and Haddon in their depositions, Exhibit 35 to both. And Amber, please just describe for the jury what's depicted here.
It's one corner of the kitchen in penthouse 3. Looks like one of the things that was knocked off of the kitchen island when Johnny left.
Okay. Let's go to defendant 720, please. Thank you, Michelle. Move the admission of defendant 720.
No objection.
All right, 720 with redactions.
And let the record reflect, Your Honor, this was shown to Officer Sines and Haddon, deposition Exhibit 43 to both. Amber, could you please describe to the jury what's depicted here?
That's my office. It's a corner of my office, and that is a box of like sentimental things from my childhood or things that are important to me. Keepsake box that has been dumped out. It looks like.
Okay. Let's go to defendant 721.
How is this an evidence? Anyone can stage it.
Move the admission of defendant 721.
No objection, Your Honor.
721 with redactions. Published.
Thank you, Your Honor. And let the record reflect this was shown to Officer Sines and Haddon in deposition Exhibit 44 for both. Amber, please describe for the jury what this depicts.
It's again my office. Different, same thing, different angle.
Okay. Let's go to 722. Move the admission of defendant's Exhibit 722.
No objection, Your Honor.
All right, 722 with redactions and evidence. Thank you.
And let the record reflect this was shown to Officer Sines and Officer Haddon as deposition Exhibit 42 to both. Amber, please describe to the jury what's depicted here.
That's a picture of my friends and I when we were at that London house that Johnny punched.
Okay. You saw him punch this?
I heard it.
Okay. All right, let's go to 723, please.
One eye Illuminati.
Move the admission of defendant 723.
Any objection?
No objection.
All right, 723 redacted in evidence.
Let the record reflect this was shown to Officer Sines and Haddon in their depositions, Exhibit 38 for both. Amber, please describe for the jury what's reflected.
One of the, it looks like a Magnum bottle of wine
Magnum bottle.
that is empty or spilled on the floor.
Can you tell where that is located?
It looks like it would be penthouse 5.
Okay. Let's go to 724.
Mega pie.
Move the admission of defendant 724.
No objection.
All right, 724 with redactions. Thank you.
And let the record reflect this was shown to Officer Sines and Haddon as their deposition Exhibits 33. Amber, please tell the jury what's depicted here.
This is more wine that Johnny was spilling as he was using the bottle he was holding as a bat of sorts.
Let's go to 725. We're almost done, just two more. Promise. Move the admission of defendant 725.
No objection.
All right, 725 with redactions.
And let the record reflect this was shown to Officer Sines and Haddon as deposition exhibit 37 to their depositions. Amber, please tell the jury what's depicted here.
More spilled wine on the floor. This looks like Penthouse 5.
Okay. And last but not least, Michelle, please, defendants 726. Move the admission of.
No objection.
Okay.
Your Honor, I believe the jury needs a tissue.
Oh, okay. Thank you. We will get a tissue. You got some? Thank you, Halissa. All right, no objection, 726 with redactions. Thank you.
All right, and let the record reflect that this one was shown to Officer Hines and Haddon as deposition 32 exhibit to their depositions. And Amber, please just describe to the jury what's depicted here.
More spilled wine on the floor. Penthouse 3 appears.
Okay, thank you. Now, when the police officers were there, did either of them take you aside by yourself and talk with you?
Yes.
Which one, or both?
The male officer I did not have much interaction with. The female officer said she needed to speak to me by myself, pulled me aside. We went into Penthouse 3, the main penthouse, to speak there because I had been in Penthouse 1, Raquel and Josh's apartment up until that moment.
Okay, and then what, if anything, did she ask you?
She asked me if I would make a statement, if I would cooperate. She kind of indicated to me, I don't remember if it was what word she said, but she kind of gestured to my face and.
Objection, Your Honor, hearsay.
Oh,
I think she could, if she gesturing to her face is not
Long
hearsay,
way.
not a statement.
I'll sustain the objection. Next question.
Okay, and it's also not offered to prove the truth of the matter.
I'll sustain the
Okay,
objection. Next one.
so
Shut up,
what
Elaine.
happened next? Let's do this. How long were you with the officer when she took you aside?
A few minutes, if that.
Okay. And as a result of that, did you cooperate?
No, I did not, but it was my understanding that I couldn't stop them from walking through the apartment, which is what they indicated to me.
Okay. And were you with them when they walked through the apartment?
No, Josh, I was with them at the beginning of Penthouse 3. Josh, Raquel's partner, took over from there and showed them around the house up through Penthouse 3, which connects on the top floor to the neighboring apartment, Penthouse 4, and then on to Penthouse 5. They all connect on the top level. So Josh walked the officers through the house.
Okay. And what, if anything, did you say about the identity of Mr. Depp?
Nothing.
Were you asked?
Yes.
Or you refused to tell them?
Objection leading.
Sustain.
Okay. Why did you refuse to tell the police officers Mr. Depp's identity?
Because I did not want them to arrest Johnny. I did not want this to happen. I did not want any of this to happen. I didn't want to get him in trouble. So I said, well, I just refused to cooperate.
Okay. Now, approximately how long were the police officers there?
I don't recall exactly, maybe I'd say less than half an hour. I really don't know exactly, but they weren't there very long at all.
Okay. Now, after the police officers left, what did you do?
We cleaned up a bit because there was broken glass and we had dogs. So we tried to clean up the mess, and especially the glass. And Josh, Rocky, Liz, and I, we kind of just cleaned up and eventually sat on the couch, and they just tried to comfort me.
What, if any, knowledge did you have that there was going to be a second set of officers coming later that night?
Objection.
I didn't know about that. That surprised me.
When did you learn that a second set of officers were coming to the penthouse that night?
I think I learned about it when they were there, when they arrived.
Okay. And we've seen the body-worn video on that. Is there anything that you recall outside of what was reflected on Officer Gaitlin's body-worn video?
I couldn't see much of what was on that video. I just, I remember being surprised that they were there, not really knowing why they were there. I assumed it was because I was encouraged to make a statement by the first set of officers.
Objection, Your Honor, hearsay.
Oh,
All right,
Just keep going forward. Okay.
And I was sitting on the couch. It was sometime hours, maybe between an hour, 2 hours, maybe more. I don't really recall, but we had cleaned up and we were resting, and they were comforting me when they came. And they didn't seem to, they didn't do what the first set of officers did. They just kind of came into the apartment, confirmed that that I was okay, or that we were okay. They didn't really seem to be that concerned, and they didn't demand to do a walkthrough like the first set of officers had, and they left.
Okay. And what, if any, cooperation did you give them?
Well, I didn't need to. I didn't really cooperate with them. I didn't talk to them. I didn't even get up off the couch. I was speaking to them from a quite a bit of a distance, like between you and I, and maybe more. And I didn't really say anything. I just kind of acknowledged that they entered, and that was it.
Did you provide them with Mr. Depp's name?
No way.
Did they ask?
No.
Okay. All right. I'm going to take you to the next day, May 22. And I'm going to, Michelle, can you bring up Defendant's Exhibit 772? What, if any, efforts did Mr. Depp make to reach out to you the day after this happened?
Well, he made several efforts. Immediately, he kind of reached out and lashed out. Again, kind of going on what seems to be slightly delusional, thinking that just because he saw my friend's beads out on the countertop that it had become a workshop or a studio for her. So he seemed angry about, this perception that this bead display that my friend had set up was evidence of her running some sort of workshop.
Dr. Evil to the soul. She really went Dr. Evil.
Having invited someone else to live there.
Dr. Evil.
Who wasn't living there, who was just in the apartment when Johnny stormed in. So he just kind of lashed out, and then the tone changed in the days that followed.
And let me stop you there. So I'm going to ask you to take a look at Defendant's Exhibit 772. And is this a text message from Mr. Depp to you?
Yes, it is.
And it's on 5/22 at 12:23 a.m. So it's early morning hours after 5/21. Would that be fair?
Yes.
Your Honor, I'm going to move the admission of Defendant 772.
No objection.
All right, 772 in evidence with the identifiers redacted and published. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. All right, and I know you started to talk about this, Amber, but it says, I'm an idiot, PH5 is Rocky's studio. You are shameless. Do you see that?
Yes.
Okay, was that what you were talking about with him thinking that you're,
Yes.
okay. And then, obviously, we can read that he says, I tried to make it work, you just turned more and more into a spoiled brat. All you wanted was to make me fucking miserable. Well, I'm finally there. I'll never be able to understand how I fell in love with you. You're not her. I loved you more than anything. I did everything that I could, but you never fucking loved me. I was merely convenient for you. I hope our divorce goes as quickly as possible and that it is as painless as possible. So sorry you were as unhappy with me as you were. Obviously, the purity of whatever was has been gone for a long time. I will miss the moments of beauty and truth. Goodbye, Amber. What the fuck was I thinking? I wish you all you merit. The former him. What, if any, discussions did you have with Mr. Depp about divorce that night?
We did not have a discussion about that that evening. We didn't have time. He was obsessed with dog poop.
Okay.
That's what he wanted to talk about.
Dog poop.
All right, let's take this down and let's go to Defendant's Exhibit 773.
Dog poop. Dog poop. Dog poop. Dr. Evil Oh my god, really Dr. Evil? She's
Now,
Dr. Evil.
this is a text exchange between you and Mr. Depp. It starts with Mr. Depp on 5/21 at 6:58 p.m. just saying here. Does that refresh your recollection of when he arrived at your penthouse on May 21?
Yes.
Okay. And then the next series are on 5/22. They start at 5:13. And you're discussing talking. You said, sorry, I'm just leaving Amanda's birthday now. Do you see that?
Yes, I do.
All right. And then he responds to that, correct?
Yes.
All right, Your Honor, I'd like to move the admission of Defendant 773.
Your Honor, if we could just have a minute to review this exhibit?
Yes, ma'am.
Is it just this page?
No, there's
3 pages.
3 pages.
I'm just reading Michelle's hands.
No objection, Your Honor.
All right, 773 in evidence with identifiers redacted. Thank you.
Thank you. And if we could, okay, we've got it published to the jury, so let's go to the top, Michelle. And so it starts out with him, this is the 5/21, 6:58 p.m. saying he's there, correct?
Yeah, but I think he came in later than that. Took him some time.
Okay. And then if we move up, the next one is you at 5:22 at 5:13 p.m., correct?
Yes.
What is this?
And then you say, thank you, and then can we still speak in a min? What do you recall of why you sent those texts?
I believe we had spoken on the phone. Or I can't control this, correct? The screen. I don't know.
We can give you control, yes. Maybe we should do that and clear out my purples.
I just don't know what was sent right before this.
Go ahead. Your Honor, can we
She can't scroll. She's asking to scroll.
Okay, Michelle, let's have you scroll if you can. Just go ahead and scroll through just slowly so she can read the whole thing.
Okay, that makes sense.
Oh no 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 no!
All right, does that help refresh your recollection?
Yes, I believe that I believe he had apologized to me after the phone incident. I had commitments that I had to attend the following day on the 22nd. So the beach show I mentioned to you, I had to go to. I also had to bring a cake to a friend's birthday party. So I had things I unfortunately had to do that day. And I remember there was communication with Johnny, both by phone and by text, where he was telling me that he was clean, that he was sober, he was clear mind, it wasn't the monster, and that he was so sorry. But I had already committed to filing for divorce, and eventually I have to let him know that it's not just saying it in the anger, in the fights that like we had done, both he and I did that at times in some of our fights, especially towards the end of our relationship. And so I let him know that I was serious about filing this time, and that I had had enough after the phone.
Objection, Your Honor, hearsay.
I had enough.
Okay.
Overruled, go ahead.
All right, I'm going to draw your attention to the bottom of the page, Defendant's Exhibit 773, and this is at 5:22, so this is 6:19 p.m. Do you see that? 5:22? And he says, just let me know when you have a minute, and I'll give you a call. Nothing I have to say. You should elicit anything but a sense of ease. Do you see that?
Yes.
And then he says, all my love and profound apologies. What was he apologizing for?
Objection,
Do you
calls
know?
for speculation.
What was your understanding of what he was apologizing for?
Speculation, Your Honor.
I'll sustain the objection.
Okay. In his phone call with you, did he tell you what he was apologizing for?
Yes.
What did he say?
He was sorry that he reacted the way he did. He said he didn't mean to hurt me. He didn't mean to hurt me. If he really hurt me that bad, he's sorry.
Objection.
But he didn't mean to.
Objection.
Okay. Michelle, if we can go to the next page. Up to the green, please. And he says here, I'm sad, I'm scared, and I'm broken, my sweet Slim. And then he says, I want you happy. I have zero harsh feelings. I am clear and I am me. What did you understand him to mean by I am clear and I am me?
Objection, Your Honor, calls for speculation.
Do you
I
have
know
an
what he
understanding?
meant.
Okay.
Your Honor,
Did
there's
he
a
use
lot.
that phrase with you?
Hold on. I'll sustain that objection.
I'm trying to get to the
I
next
know.
one here.
Then you can ask your next question. Go
Thank
ahead.
you.
Shut up.
Did he use those phrases with you during your marriage?
Yes, he did.
What did Mr. Depp mean when he says I am clear and I am me?
Objection, calls for speculation.
I think I established the foundation.
Overruled. Go ahead.
Thank you.
That he had sobered up.
Crying time.
That he had sobered up and he was not the monster again. That he was him.
Ayo,
That he was a good guy.
that timing. I call
I
it.
trusted.
All right. Now I'm going to ask Michelle if you can take that one down and bring in 771, which has already been admitted. Now those text exchanges were in the 6 o'clock to almost 7 o'clock range. And here it's 5:22, it's now 8 o'clock, correct?
Yes.
And he's telling you, sorry if a bit, please know that my hurt towards you is over. My apologies are eternal and belong to you. Solid. Do you see that?
Yes.
Her cry is predictable.
And was it your
What the
understanding
fuck?
he was apologizing again?
Objection, Your Honor. Calls for speculation.
All right, I'll sustain the objection.
Oh,
Okay.
objection.
Was there anything else he would have been apologizing for that he had done?
Objection. Calls for speculation.
Oh my
Sustain the
god.
objection.
That's it. Okay.
Almost done.
So
One bottle.
tell the jury how you felt in that
God.
week, May 22 through May 27, and what you decided to do.
Woo!
At the time, it felt like the hardest thing I've ever had to do. I had worked so hard to try to make this relationship work. I went to therapy, I went to Al-Anon, I got help, I read books, I did everything I could possibly do, and it didn't work.
Her cry is predictable.
And I was conflicted. To answer your question, I was conflicted. I knew after he threw the phone at my face that after all that month of not seeing each other, not getting better, not getting clean and sober, there wasn't even, I didn't, it was falling apart. I knew I had to leave him. I knew I wouldn't survive it if I didn't. So I made the decision to file for divorce. It was hard because, I loved Johnny so much. I loved him so much.
And why did you file for divorce?
Because I knew if I didn't, that I knew if I didn't, I'd likely not literally survive. I've been so scared that it was going to end
Predictable.
really badly for me.
No tears. Oh my god. No tears.
I,
Where's the tears? Where's the tears? Where's the
I
tears?
really didn't want to leave him.
Oh my god.
I loved him so much.
Bullshit.
I would have done anything, but I couldn't do that one thing. I couldn't stay. The promise and the hope that I had become less and less regular and more rare. The monster had been this thing that was now the normal and not the exception. The violence was now normal and not the exception. And
Here we go. Oh, bad
it was
acting.
so
Bad acting lah. Shit.
so hard. It was so hard, but I had to do it.
No tears.
I believe he would have taken it too far. I wouldn't be here.
Why did you ask for a domestic violence temporary restraining order?
I wanted to change my locks. I wanted to change my locks. I wanted a good night's sleep. Security would always let him into the house no matter what I asked them. No matter when I begged them to let me know when he was coming over, no matter how much I begged them not to let him in when he was mad or drunk or high. And I couldn't sleep. I'd wake up in a panic. I was losing hair. I was losing weight. I got really sick. I had shingles. I couldn't sleep. I'd wake up in a panic
Objection.
attack.
Objection.
I had panic attacks all the time.
Lying.
I was falling
Objection. Lying.
apart. I was scared and very conflicted because
Exorcist.
the person I was scared of is also the person I was in love with. Really, really tricky. And I was thinking one step at a time. I was thinking very myopically. I wanted just to get a good night rest, a good night's sleep. I just wanted to change my locks.
thought it'd be healthier if I got some sleep and I could think about what to do or how to handle this. If I just could sleep. And when I did, I realized that that wasn't enough, that he could get in any way, that the building wasn't going to stop him from getting a locksmith and coming in. I knew that he would do what he wanted.
Objection, Your Honor, calls for speculation.
Ooh.
It's not offered to, thank you.
All right, next.
Okay. So, did Mr. Depp show up for the hearing on the DVTRO?
No, he didn't.
Did you?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And why did you show up?
Because I had to provide testimony for why I needed a restraining order.
What, if any, warning did you give Mr. Depp about obtaining the DVTRO?
We gave him warning. My counsel and his counsel were in communication, and we let them know. We had to. It was mandatory. It's my understanding of it. I'm not a lawyer.
Was there any confusion surrounding whether Mr. Depp was going to file suit as well?
Objection, Your Honor, calls for speculation,
I'm asking
lack of foundation.
All right, I'll sustain as the foundation if you want.
Did you have any confusion as to whether Mr. Depp was going to file as well?
So I filed for divorce on the 23rd, I believe, and I thought that when I went in that Tuesday, when we filed for it, remarkably, it managed to stay under the radar. You know, these filings are not private. You can't make them private in California. And remarkably, it had flown under the radar. No one picked up on the fact that I had filed. And as limited as it sounds now, I just wanted as much privacy as we could have. You know, one day at a time, I wanted as much privacy as we could possibly get. And the filing had been missed by TMZ and, you know, these paparazzi outlets and stuff. But between the communications between our counsel, I realized that Johnny was going to file in
Objection,
retaliation.
hearsay.
Ooh. Good job.
I'll sustain the objection.
I'm trying to think how to ask this. So, without saying what the counsel said, what was your understanding and what was your concern?
Objection, hearsay.
I'll sustain the objection.
All right, well, let's move on. Michelle, can you bring up Defendant's Exhibit 800, please?
Where's the crying?
Move the admission of Defendant's Exhibit 800.
Any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
All right, 800 in evidence. Publish.
Amber, can you describe for the jury what this picture is?
It's a picture of my face while I'm sitting at the courthouse.
And were you wearing any makeup?
I was wearing nothing, not a stitch of makeup.
Michelle, can you bring up 801, please? Move the admission of 801.
No objection.
801 in evidence. Publish.
And Amber, if you can tell the jury what this is.
That's me while I was obtaining my restraining order. It's me in the courthouse.
Okay. And what, if anything, did you do while you were at the courthouse? Did you testify?
Oh, I provided testimony and sat there and cried.
And did you obtain a domestic violence restraining order? Temporary restraining
I did. The court granted me a restraining order at that time.
When you left the courthouse, what did you experience?
I walked into the courthouse. It was quiet. First thing in the morning.
Objection incoming.
No one knew about my divorce, so I thought it was going to stay that way, and I walked out to a sea of paparazzi and cameras, photographers. To that point, at the point in my life, I had never seen so many photographers, and they just surrounded me as I walked out of that courthouse. And screamed at me, screamed horrible things at me.
I'm going to take you just for a moment to makeup, and then that would put, after
good
that.
break point. Okay, great.
That'll be
All right,
a
thank
good
you.
breaking point after the makeup. You
yes.
said that you didn't testify, you didn't wear any makeup that day. We've heard all kinds of things about makeup in this case. Could you please tell the jury what
Makeup lah.
your regular routine was with respect to makeup?
Yes, I get up and wash my face like most of us, and I put on right away a moisturizer that has tinted foundation in it. And then I put another foundation on because it has sunblock in it. I have a skin condition that my skin reacts to the sun in a bad way. So I have to wear sunscreen or sunblock every day. Anyway, so I put on both of those. I put on concealer, and I do that before I leave my bathroom in the morning. Okay. That's obviously if I don't have a bruise.
Now, when you had bruises or cuts of any nature, what would you do about those? Would you try to cover them up? Would you try to just leave them showing? What would you do?
Objection, Your Honor, leading.
Overruled on that.
Thank
Go
you.
ahead.
Well, I am typically photographed in LA when I leave the house, paparazzi type of photograph. So I'm somewhat aware of that anyway. And no woman wants to walk around with a bruise on her face. So if I do have a bruise on my face or someplace visible, the main thing, you have to ice right away to reduce swelling because no amount of makeup can fix swelling, but it's very manageable if you ice it really soon. Arnica is also a great remedy, arnica cream. And then if you want to cover up a bruise, you obviously put foundation first, concealer, and then on top of that, I used a bruise kit. Not a bruise kit, it's a theater makeup kit, a color correction kit, but I called it my bruise kit.
And let me, I use this, I think, in opening statement, and it's Defendant's Exhibit 155.
If you could, by the microphone, please.
Oh.
Just, we can't hear you. There you go.
May I approach the witness to let
That's
her
what you
show?
could show the counsel.
This is what I was talking about as a color correction kit. This is not obviously the exact one I used
Boycott
to carry.
L'Oreal.
But I used to carry it with me all the time.
Boycott
Sometimes
L'Oreal.
this pink is sometimes a little bit more purple of a hue, and sometimes the kits are 3 colors. You can get them in 3 or 4 colors. Sometimes they have even more. But the idea is that you want to counteract whatever color you're working with on the bruise. So the first day of bruising, the immediate is red. Red is what shows up right away. So you want to go with the opposite on the color wheel by dabbing on a bit of the green or something to counteract the red. After a day or two, you get more purple in a bruise. So you'd obviously have to go with more of the red tones, the orange tones here.
Teaching how
Day
to
2
cover.
for me was always the trickiest because
Teaching how
Day two,
to
just-
cover
I
bruise.
feel like, day
Oh
1
my
and day
God.
2 are hardest for me because that's when you get the most
Makeup
blues and
tutorial.
purples, and you have to
Makeup
deal with the
tutorial.
sensitivity. Bruises don't like to be touched. That's the whole point. So that's the trickiest part. But after a few days, that
This trial
becomes
is
more
brought
of
to you by L'Oreal.
that blue becomes more of a brown, yellowish browns, like 5-7 days in becomes
This
more of a yellow
makeup
green.
tutorial is brought to you by
And then
L'Oreal.
fades into a brown and then into your skin.
Boycott L'Oreal.
And whatever color you're working with in the bruise, you want to go opposite color on the color wheel. The opposite. In the first couple of days when you have more of the typical bruise color, the blues and the purples, you want to go more of the orange on the color wheel as opposed to the greens that you start with, and then it progresses from there. I also noticed that bruising on your face tends to heal a lot faster than, at least for me, it was faster healing than bruises on my body, or at least it seemed like that to me. And a nose is pretty much unrecognizable after a day or two, depending on how much you ice it. Lips are the hardest because they crack and bleed, of course. But it's easy to hide with lipstick if you're a woman, or, you know, if you wear lipstick, I suppose.
You know, we heard some testimony of people in the week of May 21st to 27th saying that you didn't wear a stitch of makeup. Oh, was that true?
Objection, hearsay.
Overruled.
They just don't know what they're talking about. I always wear makeup.
Okay. You always wear makeup?
I mean, it's part of my bathroom routine in the morning. You know, wash my face. I put on moisturizer. My moisturizer has tinted foundation in it, and I'm certainly not going to walk around LA with bruises on my face.
Okay. I think that's
All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and take our lunch recess at this time. Again, do not do any outside research and do not discuss the case with anybody. And we'll see you in an hour, okay? Thank you. Court is still in session, so please be quiet in the gallery. Thank you. All right. And again, Ms. Hurd, since you're still under oath and testifying, you cannot discuss this case to include with your attorneys, okay? In your testimony. All right. Let's come back then at 1:40. Okay? All right, thank you. 1:40.
All rise.
Dr. Evil. Dr. Evil. She wear like Dr. Evil. Oh my god, really. Dr. Evil and Kim Jong-un. No, 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 no. No, no, no. Oh. For just one... How long is it? 1 hour. 1 hour I drank a bottle. My god. Because I got hit by objection more than 30 times, 40 times. Holy shit. This is crazy. Bruce Kidd. 1 hour, I think. 10:45. 11. 2 hours. 2 hours I drink. 2 hours I drink so much. Is it 11:45? Yeah, 1 hour I think. Not sure. Forgot. God damn, it's so funny, man. So damn funny, man. So fucking funny, man. L'Oreal. Five 560 over 1,000 people watching just now. Fuck, man.
Period of time in which I had to fall in love with Johnny, in which we fell in love, and he was sober, and he wasn't violent to me, lasted for a lot longer than it did.
Bullshit.
I think I would have liked to have believed that I